The little princess wants to play, no objections here. I'll show her what sin tastes like. She's on her knees before me, and my god, it's a beautiful sight. She has no idea how deeply I want to break her just for betraying me so carelessly. Okay, damn, we're going crazy. I take myself to the bathroom, wash the crusty, murky paint off my dry skin before smearing another picture back on. Some might say it's unsanitary to use someone else's blood like makeup, but it's my trophy, a reward I wear with pride. It feeds the sadistic freak in me that was drummed into my flesh and carved into my cheek, running the crimson over the ravine, traveling the corner of my mouth. What? Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and welcome to Shelby Reads. This is Sesame. What do you have on your eyebrow? Who knows? If you're new to my channel, I'm a femme for butch lesbian. I've been with my wife for almost 13 years of being together, almost 6 years of being married. It's coming around the corner, yay us. Don't sound so mad about it. You love your mom. If you want to hear more about sapphic books, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you never miss an update. I try to post at least once a week. And before we get started, if you say anything about my hair, you know the drill. You're homophobic. You're lesbophobic. And my hairdryer, like, died today after like years of loyalty. I'm very upset. And my birthday was Monday, so this is extra lesbophobic. But we're still allowed to get married, and that was announced on my birthday, so today we're going to be talking about Collateral Damage by Shassii. This is an erotic thriller. Now I will warn you guys, I hate doing two-parters, but this is probably gonna have to be two parts simply because it is 64 chapters and almost 600 pages. So please be patient with me. I am working on it, I promise. I will now be reading the synopsis for the book, followed by trigger warnings and other important information, okay? This book is a sapphic erotic thriller intended for mature readers only. Please check trigger/content warnings at the beginning of the book or on our website. It contains graphic and disturbing scenes that some readers may find uncomfortable or triggering. It is a heavy-seated Stockholm syndrome with no guaranteed happily ever after. Puppet. My life as I know it was taken from me, murdered in cold blood, now left with nothing but scattered pieces of my once perfect life and a shell of the girl I used to be, stuck with a monster who carries a hollow heart, a broken engine, a clown with an act for vengeance in blood. She speaks as if she knows me, but won't confess. I will get to the bottom of this. I will uncover her secrets buried deep within these walls. Can I be the final piece in her broken engine to bring her back to life? Will I be her salvation? Will she be my beginning or my end? Puppeteer. This was meant to be my final act, but life had other plans, gifting me karma on a silver platter for my sins. Now stuck with a grieving girl who harbors a death wish in my presence, I will not apologize for my pain, only that this was never part of my plan. She was never meant to be a part of my show. She is simply collateral damage caught in the crossfire of my ravenous revenge with a now incessant need to fix me. Fix something that cannot be fixed. She will be my undoing. Will she be my beginning or my end? We're gonna read the author content warnings first, and we'll add anything that might be necessary. Content warning: attempted suicide ideation, attempted rape, not by MFMC, explicit violence, confinement/isolation/captivity, mental health representation, disability representation/chronic illness, self-harm, murder/death, blackmail, blood and gore, obscene language, drug abuse, vomiting, parental loss, torture/abuse, flashbacks, breaking and entering, panic attacks/night terrors, attempted murder, self-sacrifice, use of guns and sedatives, domestic abuse, not to the capture FFMC, child abuse/burning/whipping, negative self-image, homophobia/homophobic slurs, the D and F slur are listed, bullying/flashbacks. I will say that I think authors have lost the plot on some of these trigger warnings. They are supposed to be for triggering things. Mental health and disability rep should not be trigger warnings. And if they're truly needed, they need to be very specific. So for example, lower on the list is panic attacks/night terrors. This is descriptive and can be triggering, but like disabilities in and of themselves shouldn't be triggering. We then are presented with a kink list, so we're gonna read those. Dubious consent, kidnapping, corruption, light DDLG, knife play, light BDSM, age gap, bondage, begging, touch me not, blindfolds, sex whilst injured, branding, blood play, restraints, praise/degradation, virgin and experienced, impact play, hate sex, sex toys, it says strapped on it, and spitting. See, we have another problem here. Not all of these are kinks. For example, touch me not is not like a kink exactly. It is a identity be like a sexual identity that tells people your sexual limits, that you cannot be touched in certain ways. And also like restraints aren't really like a kink in and of itself exactly. It's just like the item that's used, but whatever. We're now going to read the author disclaimer. Disclaimer, please be advised, the main protagonist in this book has mental health issues, addictions, toxic behavior, and heavy drama that leads to them doing extremely questionable things. I'm in no way condoning this behavior, but rather addressing where its origins lie, how characters acted out, how abuse can affect you mentally, and what consequences it can have. I would like to warn you that over the course of the book, there will be disturbing behavior from the MFMC, in parentheses, that is masculine female main character. This behavior does not correspond to my preferences, but rather to share a realistic take on how people may possibly deal with trauma. Detailed, disturbing scenes serve to address a complex topic and are described as the character perceives them and not as I, the author, or moral norms prefer the character to act. This book touches heavily on broken systems, child abuse, domestic abuse, physical and mental abuse, abduction, sexual assault, and certain torture methods. If any of this relates heavily, please think twice before reading this book. So I would also like to just mention that the prison industrial complex system and police brutality definitely are big themes of this book, especially with like the police being corrupt. Just so you're aware and you're not like blindsided. If you're really sensitive to that, you might want to think about it before continuing on this video. Okay. There's also some language notes. We're going to talk about some of this too. So she's English, and even though the book is set in America, she still uses like mum or caravan instead of trailer. And then it says you will see words like color or like self-defense. Defense has a C. Look, if you're writing a book in America and you're using British for language for everything, I just feel like that's a little lazy. And we'll get to how kind of the language of this book is kind of a problem overall. But yeah, I do, however, like when authors write long disclaimers like this because this is an erotic thriller. Also, it helps me like fuck with her more. Like, I think that this list is more expansive and complete than a lot of the dark romance I've seen. That doesn't necessarily mean I think it covers absolutely everything. I do think it missed like police brutality and like police corruption type stuff. However, I still think it did a decent job actually trying to warn the people it's trying to warn. And because it's an erotic thriller instead of a dark romance, I do not have to be on board with anything that these characters do or say, really. So like, it's kind of nicer because it's closer to horror, I would say. So there is a very long book playlist that includes a QR code. I'm not gonna really go over it unless you guys can like have a look if you want. I will say that there aren't very many sapphic artists on here, which I find to be quite disappointing considering that this is a sapphic book. You would think you would want to support more sapphic artists. So the only sapphic artists I see are Billie Eilish, who is bisexual. I do think Sia is pansexual, but she's very problematic. And then there's Fable by Gigi Perez and Eyes Don't Lie by Isabel La Rosa, but those are the only two lesbians I see on the list, and it feels pretty icky, especially considering to me, like, you are an indie author, you would hope if you're gonna put a playlist in your book, you'd want to support more LGBT creators, but So before we begin, I have some of my usual disclaimers. Number one, this review is for fellow readers and is not for the author or stans of this author's work. If you really heavily enjoyed this book, you might not love everything I have to say. Number two, this review will contain all of the spoilers. We will be going chapter by chapter through all of it, and it will contain all of the spoilers. So if you were hoping to read this, maybe come back after you've read it. Number three, I'm not bashing sapphic books. I believe we deserve to have the potato chips of books and the most amazing books you've ever read. However, straight people get on here and complain all the time, and a lot of bi girlies, okay? So I deserve to be able to do the same, okay? Number four, I didn't hate this book. I usually say this is like, just because I didn't enjoy it doesn't mean that you won't. I still believe that's true. Even if this wasn't my favorite book, I still think you could really enjoy it. I'm not going to provide like a recommendation this time just because I think a lot of people could enjoy this. I don't know. And then there's an extra special disclaimer that I have just for this one book. The reason why I can't recommend this book overall to readers isn't because of the content itself exactly. It's because of the quality issues. I paid $7.99 for this book with all of its terrible terrible grammar in certain parts and really odd grammatical mistakes. It really felt like a lack of editing overall. I don't believe it's worth that price, and I would really save your money if you could like read it for free somehow. Maybe that would be more up your alley. I just don't think it's worth that kind of money. And this is the first time I've had to say anything like this, but it's so egregious that I can't in good conscience not mention it to everybody to make sure they don't spend their money on something that is this poorly edited. Prologue. We start out 12 years earlier with our very evil main character, who's the butch lead, Hayden, who is putting herself in between her parents who are in a fight. Now this portion is supposed to be very serious because she murders her father. Spoiler, I mean, it's in the first chapter, so it's not really that much of a spoiler. But I will say that the way that it is written makes it so hard to take this seriously. I'll now read you a couple highlights, okay? Welling pleads are burrowed in her eyes as she squeezes my fingers tightly. What does that mean, welling pleads? I'm assuming you mean that like tears are welling in her eyes, pleading with her, but like it's not working. His weight submerges the wood and center glass to shatter beneath him, and a sickening laugh bellows from his stomach. What does his weight submerge the wood into? You're in a living room. He giggles through his broken cords, his face like paper mache smothered in red paint as his blood covers my skin, paying no mind to the murder welded by my hand, so close I can almost smell death in the air. See, I think they meant wielded, but they said weld, and I can't find anywhere where like weld is used this way. I've tried to look on the dictionary, tried to look in the thesaurus, I'm literally looking right now. I'm not finding anything because welding is joining things or like literally fusing metal together. It's not whatever. Stop. This is why this is gonna be 2 parts, okay? Now, just because I said that I fuck with this heavier because it's a erotic thriller rather than a dark romance doesn't mean that I think that this is a good or well-written book. I could only recommend this book to a few select people who don't mind like reading Wattpad tier stuff, and I still wouldn't want them to pay money for it. Also, like, this book didn't have an editor, and before you're like, Shelby, you're lying. Of course this book was edited. I'm so for real now. This author doesn't have an editor listed, just has some alpha and beta readers, but no editor. So get ready for a wild ride of nonsensical descriptions, things that are capitalized that should not be, things that are not capitalized that desperately need to be capitalized, and like super odd word choices for things. And again, the horrifying cherry on top of this book is that this book mainly takes place in Illinois, but also partially in Indiana, which are in the United States, but the author is British. And the author clearly did not do any research into how the prison industrial complex works in the United States. And she doesn't know anything about sentencing guidelines or how our courts work or anything, and it shows, and we'll get there toward the end of the book. Her father says some incredibly homophobic things to her during this altercation, including calling her the F slur. He also tells her that she will never be a man. Her mother tries to prevent Hayden from killing her father, but she is unsuccessful, witnessing the life drain from his dead eyes, watching my imagination finally come to light. All those years of praying he died, now I can finally take his waste of existence myself. I'm doing the world a fucking favor. I squeeze until he's limp, but I can't fight this instinct to kill, and my fist finds the carpet through his skull, able to hear my heart in my ears, pounding with such force, white noise breaking my sound barrier. So she carves a grin into his mouth like he's the Joker or something, because he did the same thing to her with a piece of glass. This prologue ends with her father dead and her mother comforting her. Chapter 1, Puppet. So this is the other character. We start our story on October 30th, 2009, which was a very difficult year for me because that is when I got a long-term boyfriend. Any of you who watch my channel on the regular know that I am a raging lesbian and that this is a very embarrassing period of time for me. By the way, I decided to snoop on him because I do sometimes, you know, I'm like, what are you up to, you terrible person? He got arrested. Karma, woo! So we're with the other main character who will be referred to with her chapter titles as Puppet, but her name is Laura. She starts off this chapter whining about how she's not allowed to do anything. She's overly sheltered, and she lives in the middle of nowhere, and her life is controlled by her parents because she has an incurable illness. This illness is diabetes. She is with her friend Casey, who desperately wants her to come with her to her Halloween party tomorrow. Laura is upset because she wants to go, but she knows that her answer will most likely have to be no because of her parents. She also doesn't want to tell Casey because she knows Casey will be upset by this again. She's kind of always flaking on Casey because her parents control her entire life. So what Allura decides to do is she lies and tells Casey that she will be able to go to the Halloween party, and her friend Casey is like, I'm sure your mom will understand it's Halloween. Casey then drops Allura off at her house. When she gets inside, she can smell her favorite dish, which is spaghetti bolognese. I don't think it's as delicious as she's claiming, but you do you. We all have our favorite foods. Her mother welcomes her home from college. I was super excited to get a protagonist that was in college for once, until I found out that she's only 18 years old. That's right, she's a freshman in college, and that just like ripped into my soul. I was like, no. I am just so sick of these barely 18-year-old protagonists like in these smutty books. It's basically a baby, but again, this is an erotic thriller, so I don't have to like any of this, and I don't like a lot of this. Her mom is then trying to confirm that they're still on for pizza the next day, which is a little bit crazy because she controls Allura's entire life, and Allura just knows she's gonna have to cancel on somebody. She asks her mom if she can go to a small get-together at Casey's for Halloween. Her mother is like, darling, you know how I feel about parties, and you know that I'm not a fan of Casey's either. Allura keeps lying and tries to say it's just gonna be a couple of friends and there aren't gonna be any boys, even though she knows that there's gonna be alcohol, boys, drugs, all of the things her mom is deeply afraid of. Her mom pulls the I was your age once card. She also says that Casey is a bad influence. Allura counters that Casey is the only person who's semi-decent to her and is like the only friend she has. She then thinks to herself though about how bad of a person Casey is allegedly. Casey isn't exactly the most amazing person, but she is the only person who's given me the time of day and speaks to me like I am a human being. Like our friendship means something. She does some questionable things, like hooking up with a younger teaching assistant in the disabled toilet, and put alcohol in almost every English teacher's coffee before flirting her way out of a fail, I won't carry on. But besides that, she respects me and likes me for who I am, I think. I mean, it sounds like Casey is a hell of a lot more interesting than Allura. I think I smell some jealousy. Her mom says that she doesn't trust her and that she's the definition of plastic. Allura then thinks to herself how much prettier Casey is than her. Ah yes, the classic 2009 insecurity.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
Her dad walks in and we learn that he was a former detective. Allura doesn't understand why he quit because he was like so passionate about it. She tries to get her dad to take her side, but he's not having it. He is all the way team mom. Allura starts throwing a fit about how this isn't fair. This kind of sets the tone for the entire book because I do fear that we infantilize Allura so much, and it's too much for a book that is supposed to have an erotic setting, especially when there is such a large age gap between them. But also at the same time, Allura is 18 years old. She is a legal adult. She can just fuck off if she wants to. She could call her friend Casey at any time and be like, come get me, I'm coming to your Halloween party. And her parents legally can't stop her because that is confinement. That is unlawful confinement. They tell her that they are looking out for her and they tell her not to be rude. She says she has been 18 for 8 months now. I'm sorry, I didn't know that she was 18 in 8 months. How could I not know that? That makes the content of this book so much better.
Are you being sarcastic, dude? I don't even know anymore.
You cannot let my diabetes rule my life, and you can't keep using it to control my freedom. Frustration laces my voice, irritation building in the back of my teeth. I've never blown up about anything. I don't dare disrespect them, but it seems to have gotten me nowhere in life. I am a doormat. Please do not raise your voice, young lady, and you can't be too careful during Halloween. Who knows what is behind those costumes? He can't be serious right now. He's going to try and use Halloween as a scapegoat for my safety. You're actually being ridiculous. You think a serial killer disguised as bad cops and clowns is gonna kill me on the one night of the entire year I've actually left the building besides putting my head in books? Uh-oh, we're not so subtly foreshadowing about cops and clowns. Her dad says that he didn't work for the police force for nothing and that there's some sick and twisted individuals out there. She thinks to herself, like the contrarian teenager that she is, that he could be out there protecting everyone else from the weirdos if he was doing his old job instead of being at home and coddling her. She tells them that they can't protect her forever and that she's right. She also says that this is the time that she should be making a lot of mistakes when she's still living at home, but instead they're basically keeping her confined most of the day. Allura is just furious, and she also has this internalized ableism that's against herself because of the diabetes, which I think in her mind is the only reason they don't trust her. That's what she's thinking. We are going to learn that that's actually not the case. She decides to run upstairs to her room. She's fine fucking right off. Even though she wasn't even that harsh, she does feel a bit guilty as she goes up the stairs that she was rude to her parents, but I think she should have been ruder. I'm lucky I have parents who love this hard, but sometimes it's overwhelming and exhausting. If you give a flower too much water, you'll drown it, and I feel like I'm drowning. My pot is spilling over, taking the soil with me. Love is also like unnecessarily capitalized all throughout this book, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know why we're doing that. She flops down onto the bed and she thinks about her bass guitar and how she loves writing and art and music. She whips out her phone and then we get a text exchange between her and her friend Casey. It's like genuinely, I'll put a little screenshot of it. I'll take that now so I don't forget. Casey is a little bit of a bitch in this text exchange, but at the same time, I was in high school at the same time this was going on. And I feel that this was very much the culture of the time, because on one hand, there was a weird culture of puritanism still about like not having sex before marriage and all that. But there was also a heavy shaming on women who didn't have sex with anyone. You were called a prude. Everyone was awful to you. 2009 is a lawless landscape that I would never want to go back to. Allura really wants Jack, some guy, to pick her up the next day so she can go to Casey's party, but she also knows it won't go well for her. She then throws her phone on the bed. This whole time though, Allura is like this about herself internally.
You know what? I'm good. Because it's not gonna happen for me. If it's not happening here, then it's definitely not happening at Emerson, okay? I'm done trying to sow my damn oats. I'm packing up my vagina and I'm fucking at you. That's the only hope for me. It's man Mathieu, man. And because he's gay and fearless, he's probably gonna fuck me without protection. Then I'm gonna get pregnant, we're gonna have to join a church, he'll be the gay pastor. My whole life's fucked!
You're only 18, you need to calm down. I didn't have good sex until I was 19 and I still feel like that was a lot earlier than a lot of my peers. Page break. Allura has been writing a new story for a few hours to try and process her feelings. She's writing a story about a girl who escapes captivity, meets a boy, falls in love with him, runs away with him. She says she's a sucker for romance, which is really funny just because you know she hasn't had any romance ever. But I think sometimes it's also like you want what you can't have, you know? Like my girl can dream, you know? She also accidentally missed dinner because she was writing and having such a great time. Her alarm goes off for her insulin and her mom usually does this for her in the evenings at least, but she's in no mood to see or talk to her mom right now. So she shoots herself with her insulin. Her mom is a hover parent, however, and comes up the stairs and asks if she took her insulin. And also I have questions about the insulin throughout this book because like, does she have a refrigerator in her room for the insulin? No, she just keeps it in a drawer. And I've seen that some can be like shelf stable, but like as soon as you open it, it's only good for like 28 days. But like the ones that are like not refrigerated before you use them have expiration dates also. So like, it's just, oh, I've only done pet insulin, so like I'm not an expert, but like it was always in the fridge when I was there. Allura tells her yes and then thinks about how her mom is not her biological mom, but that she has been her mom for her entire life pretty much. Does this ever go anywhere? No, it doesn't. We don't ever learn what happened to her biological mom. We don't hear anything about that. Her mom asks to see if she's eaten and Allura lies and says that she did. Her mom then does like the whole mom check-in of the like, you know we love you, right? She says she knows, but that she still feels like crying. She hates crying though, and while I would normally make fun of this because every dark romance there's a lady who's like, I hate crying, but like one, this is an erotic thriller, so it's kind of a different genre sort of, and two, I also hate crying, but for sensory reasons. It is a nightmare. I don't like it. I don't like being wet on my body or face or ugh. Her mom wishes her good night and sweet dreams. Allura then gets on her phone and starts surfing through Facebook because this is 2009 and that's the only thing we were ever using. But seeing other people doing things makes her feel worse, but she's deciding to look anyway because she's sad and because she feels like she's daydreaming her life away because her parents won't allow her to do anything. Chapter 2, Puppeteer. We're back with Hayden. We're back with Hayden, who is excited because justice is so close she can taste it. She has been waiting 11, almost 12 years for this very moment, and she served her time in prison, but she didn't learn her lesson. She thinks that some people don't deserve to breathe, particularly not this sack of shit. She has been searching for this guy for 4 years since she was discharged. She exposits that he ran just like she thought he would because he's a little bitch. She is too edgy for no reason, but then again, I was alive in 2009 and in high school, and we were all like this, even though it's so cringe. But I don't hate it because it's accurate. accurate, although she is 29, so that makes me feel a little weird. I don't know what 29-year-olds were like in 2009, but I do know what 15-year-old me was like. Hayden thinks to herself if she could see her mom would just tell her to let it go, but she can't let it go, so she's gonna do it anyway. She's extra angry because he has been living the life kids like her can only dream about. The house is bigger than her hometown, in her words. She says that he sucked up that money he won in his self-defense case in court, but you don't really make money from saying that you killed someone in self-defense from court, because that's not how that really works here. He would have to potentially sue in like civil court after, which would take a long time. I fear that the author has really no idea how the US criminal justice system works, and this book could have been really helped with some research. Honestly, me and one of my book club friends both said that we did enjoy a lot of parts of this book and that we would edit this for free. like for real, I would edit this for free. It wouldn't be 600 pages, I'll tell you that much, for free. She thinks about how prison was great compared to living with her father, which is just objectively super sad. A little bit relatable though. She thinks about how prison taught her a lot, including how to kill someone and not get caught. I would argue you shouldn't take advice from all these people who are in prison because they were caught. Like if they were in there, they definitely got caught. It doesn't make any sense. She thinks the guy that she's planning to murder has definitely been keeping tabs on her, but she's been keeping a kind of like low profile to give him the illusion that she has no interest in him. She parks outside his farmhouse and it is covered in surveillance cameras. The entire house was smothered in surveillance cameras. Guilty conscience much? It's a good job. Computer tech is my favorite subject. Otherwise, this would have proven to have been a little more difficult. I know he has a wife, and as much as I am a mommy's girl at heart, I'm afraid I cannot keep her breathing, as gorgeous as she is. So there's no harm in toying with her a little before I remove her too. I'm doing the bitch a favor anyway. She's too good for him. Not that I've gotten close and personal with her, but from a distance, she's a looker and far too intelligent for the likes of him. Dude couldn't even solve a case without murdering the wrong suspect. Well, she's out here saving lives. So we have an extremely morally questionable lead here. And since this isn't dark romance, I don't care. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I kind of love her revenge tale a little bit. She sees through the window that he is still awake, which will make this a lot easier for her. She thinks it's funny that he thought moving would help him, especially since he moved out to the sticks, which is going to make this a lot easier because there are going to be no witnesses she needs to worry about. So she also brings up being like a clown, and she's like, but I'm the clown, right? And is sort of like brought up throughout the story, but she was never a clown in the actual literal sense. She just dresses up like that for fun. She has like face paint and a mask. I'm not sure I understand it, especially since her dad was the one who called her a clown and she's fixating that instead of the homophobic slurs he was calling her. And I understand the clown thing because it's like he called her a clown, now she does the clown shit, whatever. But then I don't understand the puppet and puppeteer thing because I don't think that those go with clowns as like traditionally, so it's a little bit confusing. She turns off the car that she stole and takes the key out, and she's going to be disposing of it after. She says that she's really surprised he doesn't have any dogs because dogs are more reliable than technology, and in 2009, I believe it. She makes her way around the building. She has already tampered with a lot of the stuff there earlier when she was casing the place. She gets into the kitchen and she hears them watching a horror movie. She says, how ironic, they won't even hear me coming. And I'm like, is it ironic? Is that the definition of irony? I don't know. She's creeping across the tiles and she pulls her Glock out of her jeans. She sees the wife slumped on the couch, completely oblivious, and the man she wants to murder is in his office. She thinks about how she gave the judge who sentenced her a little visit and stabbed him quite a few times. I finally gave the judge a little visit, stabbed him a few times. Okay, a few is an understatement, a lot. Before leaving a precious little smile across his face, then hung him up for the entirety of the town to see from the courthouse. And fuck, did it feel good. The look on his face was priceless. Not that it relieved me much pent up anger, but the fucker had it coming. I'm not the only one who's been objectified by his sexist nature. I'm sure people were relieved to see him gone. I mean, I will say that she's doing more to fix the corrupt criminal justice system than people nowadays are. I said what I said. At least she took direct action, right? She is still creeping kind of like behind the kitchen door, and she thinks about how this woman doesn't deserve this, but she knows that she didn't deserve what happened to her either. She wants to make him feel pain, stripping the only thing he has from him. She creeps up and then she puts the barrel of the pistol behind the woman's head, like touching. She thinks that she's being such a good girl staying quiet, and we are already getting into the weird kinkiness. I honestly wish it had been the mom that she kidnapped. I think it would have been more age appropriate, and I think it would have been even better because it would have been someone having this kind of sexual awakening and someone who was of age and like consenting. I mean, 18 is technically legal, but does that make it moral? You know, like I work with a lot of kids that end up turning 18 in care, and like they're still children in my opinion. So like, also, I think it could have really raised the stakes because then ller, who she doesn't know about, would be looking for her mom. I think that could have been a good idea. I don't know. She says, would you like to star in a horror movie, Mrs. Blackthorne? Because you are about to be all over the news. Horror is capitalized though for some reason. And just so you know, it's been like all over the place in this book with that. I fear you just need to know that some of these words are randomly capitalized, and I can't stop at every instance and tell you because it would take forever. Mrs. Blackthorne is trembling. She doesn't really answer. Hayden tells her to get up slowly, which she does. Hayden thinks to herself she's definitely a sub in the bedroom. Where's the spunk? Girl, if you do not get a grip. She's shaking, and Hayden tells her not to take it personally. She then tells her to call in her husband calmly. She does this. I do like this line that says, she nods sporadically before using her words to entice her loved one to walk into his grave with her. And people say romance is dead, but the lines I like in this book are like few and far between. So he says, I'll be out in a minute. His voice is making Hayden feel all crazy and excited to get her revenge. She takes some duct tape out of her pocket and makes Mrs. Blackthorne pull the tape. The woman does this, but also just in case you haven't figured this out, these people are Alora's parents. Just for clarity's sake, I wanted you to know we don't learn for a little bit. Yet I can't seem to escape this hunger for revenge. I'm broken, rotten, lost, but he created this. He made me who I am. I guess it's genetics. I was doomed the day I was conceived. Now I am just being the person he always said I'd be. A fucking clown. All capitalists. ... A ludicrous circus act of attempted humor. Putting on a show for people only to laugh at me. The abuse I endured for simply being different really fed me my new identity. Now I've lived and breathed to put on a mind-blowing show, and this is my final act. Again, we can see that her dad called her a clown, but compared to all of the other insults he called her, even just the ones he levied at her in the prologue, I don't understand why that's the one that she has like clung to, latched onto. It was like, I'm gonna be a clown then, because you think I'm one. She also doesn't completely stick to the clown theme, so whatever. He comes out and then freezes and stares at her in horror. She has been waiting 11 years, again, we're hearing about it again, and she is just so excited to get this started. The barrel tickles her skin, gliding down her soft cheeks to meet the opening of her pajama shirt, popping open the buttons as the metal tugs on it to expose her chest to me. She's lucky I'm not a sick, perverted man, but fuck, has she got a nice rack. I toy with her breast, the cold metal of my pistol dancing against the curves of them before I dig it into her chest plate of bone. Into her chest plate of bone? I think they just mean like the stern, whatever. Urging her to move against the pain. You can't say that you're not as creepy as men and then objectify a woman in a very male way. Butches and mass presenting women / people can clearly be evil and bad people, but this just feels like so icky to me. I think I could have enjoyed this book a lot more if it had been the mom. Like, you still could have given her the same exact personality as ller, have her be super isolated because of her husband, live in the middle of nowhere. Like, she married really young, she's diabetic, her husband is very controlling. We could have done that. I would have much preferred that to the 18 and 8 months, but it still feels pretty freshly 18 to me, and I don't really care what you say. Hayden tells her to turn around, and llera's mom sees her without the mask on. She is terrified and she is pleading to Hayden with her eyes. Hayden says, well, isn't this familiar to him? And he doesn't say anything really, and then he says he doesn't know what she wants from him, but that his wife has nothing to do with whatever it is, so please just let her go. Hayden replies that that didn't mean fuck all when she had said it to him years ago. I do like when people turn their own words against them a little bit, especially when these people are corrupt ex-cops. I can't lie to you, I did like it. Also, there are some moments in this book where Hayden is undeniably sexy to me, and I'll spoil it for you now. I did enjoy this book a lot despite it barely being readable, because I do enjoy like dark and twisted things. It's just about the context in which they are like written in, I would say, and the context behind them, how they're labeled. He asks her if this is some kind of sick Halloween joke, and Hayden gets pissed because she's like, is he really suggesting that this is a fucking joke right now? She tells him to move or she will not hesitate to shoot Allora's mom. She also tells Allora's mom to move too and is like, it's your choice, but there's no escaping the bullet with his name on it. She wants him to watch her use his wife as a human shield, just like she had to watch when she was younger. Again, there's another death that's being alluded to in this chapter, and we will learn about it later, but it isn't about the death of her father. Well, it is, but it isn't, because that's not the death, but like it is connected, okay? She's like, he didn't think about how horrible of a person she is now and that she's permanently damaged. She says that she has accepted how far she has sunk. She accepts that she is a ticking time bomb and all she can do is let it fill her lungs. Bomb in your lungs. Whatever. He tries to bargain and says, whatever you want, I'm sure that there is a better way of getting it. Hayden thinks to herself, a better way to avenge her? She thinks to herself, like, if not this, nothing else is going to repair the damage he has already done. And that she also spent 6 years behind bars while he just sat around sipping tea and marrying a woman who had no idea of like what kind of man he was. She says, you don't get it, there isn't. And if it means I have to set this house on fire with all of us in it to ensure that you will be suffering and go to hell, don't think that I won't do that. I will do that. She's like, you're going down just like you should have gone down 11 fucking years ago. Now sit on the couch. He does sit on the couch. She then pushes his wife onto the couch as well. Hayden goes on this little villain monologue about, you really thought your demons weren't going to catch up with you? Did you think that you could move and this would all just disappear? She's still pissed off because he is not putting the pieces together fast enough. And that also just leads me to believe that he's been doing super corrupt things as a cop, like even not just what he did to Hayden, but like what he did to a whole bunch of other people. She says that she remembers everything like it was yesterday, even though it's been such a long time. Every word, every smell, the way he tricked the woman he killed into sleeping with him and having a relationship with him when he was only ever doing this to harm her. And Hayden calls him a sick fuck, and I agree. He is starting to realize, and she sees a shift in his eyes. He suddenly looks so much more fearful when she said, yeah, there is this realization. Realization is suffocating. All this time she's been keeping a gun pointed at his wife. He is just staring at her in terror, and his Adam's apple is bobbing, and he's starting to hyperventilate a bit. The chapter ends with her saying, surprise.
Surprise, bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Chapter 3, Puppeteer, we're still with Hayden. It looks like he has so much to say, but I've sucked the life from him and it's fucking beautiful. Fear is its own font of beauty that I have fallen in love with. I slide the flick knife from my front pocket. So I'm assuming a flick knife is a switchblade, first of all. And when I first read this, I also thought that she used font incorrectly, like you mean like type. But my wife explained that it can be like a kind of fountain, and like it's something that Catholic people still say and use to talk about certain kinds of fountains or something. So I guess I did learn something from this book. I just feel like in the United States, overwhelmingly, we don't use that word when we mean fountain. So like it kind of like threw me for a loop for a second, but that did actually help me with a different book I read recently that had the same thing. I did Cursed by Malignant Magic. You should go check that one out. That one had the word font and I didn't have to like think that hard about it because my wife had explained it, so it's fine. He starts like pretty much begging and saying, it doesn't have to be like this. I will do anything you want. I regret that day every day of my life. She is getting angry because she sees it as him trying to victimize himself to her face. She stops him and says that she doesn't want him to say his victim's name and she doesn't want his pity or an apology. She wants his confession. She directs the point of her knife under his chin on his Adam's apple. I want you to tell me that you had no intention of ever loving her, that you believed my father's twisted lies whilst he sat back and watched you tear a family apart, and that you purposely pulled that trigger. So we can now see that he killed Hayden's mother and she is here for revenge. And one of my questions actually with the narrative is that it has been 10 years since everything went down, like more than that I think, which means that he was probably having an affair because Allura was already born, or maybe he hadn't gotten with his new wife yet, except that she said that the new wife has been her mom for as long as she can remember. So I'm going to assume that it was an affair because otherwise I don't think the timeline makes any sense, because you can remember people when you're like 7, 8, 9, however old Allura was knows. So like extra, that's just like an extra side piece of bad information, I guess. She can see him trying to like conjure up a sob story that can keep his image clean, but she knows the facts because she was there and she saw everything. He had previously also searched their home without a warrant. She thinks that she can give him credit for his A+ acting because he had her and her mother fooled. She thinks that she cannot let this go because even though he wasn't her father by blood, he had given her a sense of security while actively sabotaging her life. She thinks that she is the lesser of two evils when men like him walk amongst the earth. He tries to say that Hayden's father loved her mother, and he said he couldn't understand why Hayden would take his life. This sets Hayden off immediately, and she starts going off about, how did you not know what was going on behind closed doors between the two of them? You don't know because you were too tied up in his manipulative lies. She also freaks out because her mother trusted him, and now she has no one left, and he killed her mother for something that she did. She's accidentally kind of pressing the switchblade closer, and it's doing like some actual damage now. He says that she never told him and hid the truth. He asks what he was supposed to do. She turns the gun on him because she is extremely angry and full of adrenaline. There is just something about someone staring death in the face that makes my eyes fight to not roll into the back of my skull. It's exhilarating. Knowing their life is in the palm of your hands and they either breathe oxygen or choke on their own innards by your choice and your choice alone. It's power. Power that I crave. Power that I drown in. Power that I was deprived of for so long, while underneath the very people who claim they do good in the world and keep women and children safe. Where were they when I needed them to help? They threw me behind bars and exiled me for trying to do exactly what they proclaimed. Where were they when my mother needed help? They turned a blind eye because they are all sexist pigs. It's amazing what you can get away with in the face of the law and political structure. As we can see, Hayden's kind of a little bit of a freak with the eye rolling thing, but at the same time, I think she's a little bit hot. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I don't know. There's something about evil women, but particularly evil butches. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. It's just like this woman seeking revenge against evil, corrupt systems and evil men for her mother. I truly enjoy it. I don't know. Also, I'm the biggest butch defender. I will defend Hayden every once in a while. Every once in a blue moon. Again, this isn't a romance book, so we don't really have to worry as much about like condoning all of the harmful, fucked up behavior because like it's not meant to be good. I feel that we can still enjoy this book and find it a little kinky, a little sexy. Hayden tells him that he was meant to leave them the fuck alone, but he just couldn't do it, could he? He tries to go a different route and says that your mom wouldn't want this, Hayden. This makes her even more angry, and she clenches her jaw so tightly she's worried she's gonna chip a tooth. And honestly, I did really kind of like this because there's really nothing that you can say when you were so deeply hurt that will make any of this better. She hates that he's trying to play therapist like there is any redemption left in her. She says he has no idea what kind of monster he's awoken. She wants blood and she's gonna get it. She tells him to shut his fucking mouth because he doesn't have any clue what her mother would want. She reminds him that he put her behind bars. Also, he tries to just like listen to her talk to him so that he can listen and understand. And this just continues to make her angry because she doesn't want him to listen to her now. She wanted him to listen to her 11 years ago. She's like, are you kidding me right now? Look at all the damage. Like the damage is done and you got what you wanted. Nothing you say will make me think that you have any remorse. And I just believe that you lied to save your own ass. He said he did what he felt was necessary and that he was blind, but she pushes back on this immediately. And she says that he took the role of who he has always been deep down, which is just a murderer. She then tells him to admit that he fired the gun on purpose. He starts stuttering and says, I'll tell you what I told them. It was self-defense. And she says, bullshit. You knew she wasn't gonna hurt you. She was just trying to protect me. She cannot fathom a world in where her mother would ever hurt anyone. And like, that's her opinion. She doesn't think her mother could ever do something so awful. And he changes his tactics a bit. He tries to do the whole, if you kill me, you're no better than me and you are no better than your father. She thinks in her head that the difference is she owns it and she takes pride in it. She tells him she doesn't plan on being better, so it makes no odds to me. I don't really know what that sentence means. I don't know if it's like profoundly British. I don't know. If any of you are British, tell me if that's something that you guys say, because a similar phrase to what I think this is supposed to mean in American English would be like, it makes no difference to me. He tries again and says, just listen to yourself. You were turning into a man you hate the most. This makes her eyeball twitch. And she really just wants to pull the trigger on him. She says her father was no man. He was the devil. And she's like, and when I leave this godforsaken piece of shit we call Earth, that he is in hell waiting for me so I can kill him again. And that honestly is kind of hot as somebody who has abusive parents. Can't lie to you. Damn. He tries to say, please don't do this. Like again, she says, those were the words I said before you pulled the trigger. They meant nothing to you and they mean nothing to me. His wife tries to run for it, but she grabs her hair and yanks her back down. She tells her to sit the fuck down. There's periods between all those words, like sit the fuck down. She demands that he say whether he pulled the trigger on purpose or not again, and she has the gun between his eyes. She says that she is giving him 5 seconds to answer correctly, or she is going to fire the gun straight into his wife's skull. The wife starts sobbing and glaring at him in desperation. He still doesn't answer, so she repeats it again. She then starts counting. He tries to lie again and say that he didn't pull the trigger on purpose. When this doesn't work, he just says Hayden's fucking crazy and holds his wife's hand and squeezes it tightly. Hayden asks if he's really going to fight and do all this stupid shit when his wife's life is literally at stake right now. She continues to count, and after she says 3, he says, okay, I fired with intention. I killed her. I was angry and confused. I'm sorry. Hayden calls him a good boy, grips the back of his neck, and then swings him around to look at his wife, and then she shoots his wife in the head. Gotta give it to you, I wasn't really sure if she was actually gonna do it. I thought she might decide to leave the mom, but she does at the same time now know too much information. I did like it simply because in a lot of dark romance, we are being trained kind of to believe that these morally ambiguous people are actually good people secretly, but in reality they aren't. And that's why I really do like that this is an erotic thriller. I don't really have to worry as much if Hayden's a good person or not because it doesn't matter. She then tells him, it doesn't matter how much you plead your sin to save someone else, they end up taking the bullet for you anyway. Isn't that right, detective? She holds him there and she forces him to watch his wife bleed out on the couch because she wants him to watch like she had to watch her mother die. He looks angry. She thinks this is great. He's feeling everything, and everything that he wants to say is just sitting right on the tip of his tongue. She tells him, here is how this is going to go. I'm going to talk, you're going to listen. She says, let me show you what kind of friend you were dealing with. She takes out a cigarette from her back pocket and her lighter. He says, that won't really be necessary. And she's like, what's the matter? Are you scared? She's like, you know what isn't necessary? My mother being dead. He asks what he can do, and he says that he will do anything. And she says, you can feel. And she takes a drag off of the cigarette, then looks at the cigarette between her fingers for a second. She asks if he knows that cigarettes burn up to like 752 degrees Fahrenheit. And he tries to say that her father wouldn't do that. He tries to keep talking. She shoves a rag down his throat right as he was trying to say that he has a daughter, but she did not hear it. But he can't get all the way through the sentence at all. She then says it's rude to talk with your mouth full, and she starts slicing him a little bit. She then pushes the cigarette into the hole. She burned a bullet-like hole into his skin. She's getting more annoyed because he's crying so much, like a little bitch in her words, but you would think that would be what she wants. She tells him to imagine the burning sensation over and over again. She then rips off one of her leather gloves and shows that it is covered with these wounds that were from cigarette burns. She says, for your sake, I'll make this quick because believe it or not, I'm not as sadistic like my father, and I'm sick of looking at you. She then shoves the barrel of the gun in his mouth, pushing the fabric further back as like a silencer, and she thinks to herself that it's finally over. Chapter 4, Puppet. We're back with Laura. She wakes abruptly to voices. She thinks in her head that the scream felt so real that it makes her uneasy. She thinks that usually she's a heavy sleeper, and it's because the insulin usually just knocks her out. She checks the time. It's 12:32 a.m. She lays there for a moment, but there's some shuffling downstairs. She hears the shuffling downstairs, but she doesn't hear her parents. She wonders what is going on because it almost sounds like there's some kind of digging going on downstairs. She gets up and thinks they must still be awake because there are a ton of lights on, which isn't usual for her parents. She knocks on their bedroom door. There is no answer. She thinks to herself that they're usually in bed by now, but maybe they had a horror movie night. And she's pretty mad if they are having a horror movie night because she loves horror movies and it's unfair to do it without her. Oh, honey, have I got some unfortunate news for you. She makes her way downstairs quietly and she still hears the TV going. She wonders if they both fell asleep asleep because she can see them on the couch and perhaps just forgot to turn off the TV. She walks into the living room. She can't tell that they're dead right away. They look slumped, like almost asleep. She creeps her way over to reach for the remote and presses the power button, but she catches a glimpse of their reflection in the black screen and she goes to scream, but nothing comes out. But she's feeling like paralyzed and no sound is coming out. She's definitely experiencing like the freeze part of fight, flight, or freeze. And she's like telling herself in her brain to wake up. She turns slowly and sees that both of them have bullet wounds in their foreheads and that blood is just dripping down their faces. She thinks about how lifeless, pale, stiff, cold they look and they're just like dead. Also, I forgot to mention, but throughout some of these places, there's going to be like songs that you're supposed to listen to with that. I didn't do that. I'm not doing that. I still think that putting a playlist to your book is like a crazy crutch because your book can't stand on its own artistic merit. You have to borrow the merits of other people. Honestly, this book could have been really enjoyable. I think we needed some serious help though. Allura thinks to herself that she's gonna throw up, that she can't breathe. She collapses onto the floor and crawls for their legs and she starts crying, and this is all like a very normal response to find out that your parents have both been murdered while you were asleep. She thinks to herself that whoever did this must still be in the house because the bullet wounds look very fresh. She can hear noises in the basement and she fumbles for her dad's phone, but she realizes she doesn't know his password. She then gets upset with herself because she touched a crucial piece of evidence and left some of her own fingerprints all over it. She stands up quietly, she's trembling, and she thinks to herself about what she can do right now. She thinks that the adrenaline is starting to kick in. She tells herself she needs to think of a weapon, and thank God we have a protagonist who actually thinks about this stuff, right? So she looks at the kitchen door, and even though she's afraid, she starts to quietly and carefully move toward that door so she can go and get a knife. She reaches the block of knives, she grabs one. She's hoping it's sharp, but this is an American kitchen. So probably not. She thinks to herself that the door must be open because there has to be a way that the killer got inside. She tries to lock the door, but Hayden has locked it and she can't open it. I don't really understand. You're on the inside. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She starts to think about how she's going to die tonight and that she's not ready to die. She doesn't understand why anyone would do this, and she's kind of freaking out and trying to think about what her dad could have done in his career that would have led to his demise like this. And honestly, she should be asking more questions like this to herself after this, and she does, but it's not as often as I think she should be. She hears footsteps in the basement. She tells herself she needs to move now. She's going to try and get into her dad's office because he keeps guns in there. She doesn't know what the safe code is, but she really hopes that he just has like a handgun that's within arm's reach. She thinks to herself she's lucky she's so small because you can barely hear her on the floorboards. And we are back again to one of those tropes that I truly despise. Why in these books we have one woman who is the smallest, teeniest, tiny woman to ever woman, and then the other one is huge? Why is this infiltrating sapphic books when it's mainly usually a heterosexual thing? I don't know. She is freaking out internally, but there's something inside her telling her to fight and to keep pushing. She's not sure if it's her instincts, but she needs to do something. She's searching through the desk, she's fumbling, and she like tumbles over herself, and she says like she physically can almost not feel anything. But the needles lacing every pore of her skin, I just feel like it was worded really oddly. She reaches for the drawers, looks through them, but there is no weapon, only stationery. She's now starting to be able to hear the heavy boots, and they're echoing more clearly down the corridor, making their way straight to the office. She ducks behind the desk, she places a hand over her mouth, and she is freaking the hell out, understandably. This is just like a nightmare situation. And even though she doesn't believe in any religion, she's still praying, which is also kind of relatable. Her pajamas are literally stuck to her because she's sweating so much, and I'm glad that this author didn't make her look attractive even during what is probably going to be one of the worst moments of her entire life. She hears the intruder move, but they were moving away from her. She's hoping that they're leaving. I feel like a shell. The body that once inhabited me is no longer present, a cavity replacing the fleshy parts of me, the parts of me that cannot be replaced. I've lost everything I once knew and gained trepidation of the future that I may possibly never even live to see. Even if I do, what now? What's left for me besides mourning for that missing part of me that made me whole? My life will never be the same. How are you supposed to move on when your heart is stuck beating for a life that doesn't exist as you sit brain dead in a void of infinite emptiness? I knew I'd lose them one day, but I wasn't ready for it to be so soon. I do appreciate that this book at least tries to take Allura's suffering and trauma seriously. I feel like in a lot of the dark romances we've been discussing lately, there's just kind of a little bit about their past or some like throwaway lines, but with Allura, I I feel like a lot of her reactions make a lot of sense as the story goes on because of the trauma she's getting right now. Allura knows she needs to get back upstairs to use her phone, so she crawls out from underneath the desk to make her way up there. She is physically not doing great though because she is freaking out. She runs into the room once she finally gets there to her phone and then realizes that it's dead and she forgot to charge it. She looks out to the window, which is like her last option, which leads her onto the roof. However, the window always gets jammed and she doesn't know how she's going to be able to open it quietly because she knows that it's going to make a lot of noise. This window always makes noise. She tries to push it gently, but it is squeaking as she's doing it. She thinks to herself as she's doing this that it feels like it's becoming 2 times louder, and that feels so real to me. I live in an ancient building and that's exactly what it feels like when I try to do anything quietly in here. While she's doing this, she realizes she accidentally caught herself with the knife and she has a little bit of blood pouring down, and she notices that there is a perfect trail through the bedroom to where she's now stood. She thinks that she can't just hide and that she's leading them straight to her. And now she can hear boots climbing the stairs. It actually says that she began to climb the stairs, breaking the floorboards beneath them, and all I can do is lock the door. I highly doubt they're breaking the floorboards. That is such a huge hyperbole. Calm down. I know that Hayden is a lot bigger than Allura, but it just feels ridiculous at this point. Like, she can't be so big and she's literally breaking wooden floors apart. Allura runs and locks the door. She thinks that she needs to distract whoever is in here. She picks up some books and throws them with all of her power, and she has left shattered glass all over her carpet. Hayden is still on the other side of the door and is silent. Allura waits for a few minutes and then creeps toward the door and presses her ear against it to listen to it. She hopes that they're gone and that they have fallen for her decoy, so she presses a little harder on the door before heavy duty nails pierced through the barricade just centimeters from her nose. Again, this is another way you can tell that this was written by a British person because we don't use centimeters really unless it's for like baking or math or whatever. We use inches. But she leaps back from the door and the chapter ends. Chapter 5, Puppeteer, we're back with Hayden. Hayden hears the glass but thinks that she wasn't born yesterday. Honestly, I kind of love that she's portrayed as smart. She has a bat that is covered in nails that she is using to beat the door down, and she lets out a sinister snarl as she hears a yelp through the walls. She thinks that she doesn't hurt children, but that this person seems too smart to be incredibly young. She was in the middle of setting the house on fire before this person ruined it, and she just needs to make sure that no one gets out of here alive. She does kind of have the presence of mind to realize that like she's been kind of in this position before as someone who was abused, like with her dad, and she was incredibly fearful of her own father, and that she's kind of just doing it to another person, but like it doesn't last long. She's still too busy trying to do the thing that she's doing. Hayden decides to wait for Allura to make a desperate decision to try and run for the front door. Why she doesn't try to actually use the window and get out, I don't really know. I know that this is on the second story, but it seems much more plausible that you would be able to escape potentially through that way. When Allura does make this desperate decision after a while, Hayden reaches out and grabs Allura's pin straight dark hair. She smells like lilies and butterscotch, and it's stinging her nose. Allura is able to get past her because she has a knife and she uses it a little bit, and Allura books it down the corridor. Unfortunately for Allura, she can't get down anyway, except the way that Hayden is blocking off. Hayden pulls her bat out of the door and she takes off after her, allowing the nails and the bat to drag across the floor slowly. It doesn't take long for Allura's leg to pop into view, and she hits Allura's calf muscle with the bat. And I'm gonna be honest with you, usually these kinds of books avoid the main character hurting the other one, depending on what we're reading, obviously. But it's usually just kind of like sexual assault or emotional trauma going on. I did kind of enjoy how far Hayden is willing to go to do what needs to be done. Like, she's gonna get it done. Hayden thinks to herself that she wouldn't have hurt Allura if Allura hadn't run. Allura is still trying to escape, dragging her immobile leg behind her as she like floods the floors with her tears, crawling around, and Allura begs her not to hurt her. But Hayden says in her brain that she doesn't have time for this. Allura turns to her and Hayden is ready to just like slit her throat with a little switchblade and watch her bleed out slowly across the floor, but their eyes meet and something happens. Turning her face to me, I'm ready to drive my switchblade across her delicate little throat and watch her bleed out slowly across the floor for for me. But as our eyes meet, I gently pierce the sharp edge into her jugular, and she gapes at the horror that I am with my mask glaring back at her, taking in her final moments, pools spilling over her cheeks. She's blubbering words I cannot understand beneath her breath, and I twist my split tongue, rubbing each fork along the piercings in my mouth, sucking in her pain as her eyes catch me completely off guard, so full of sadness and fear. I feel like I'm looking at my own reflection, frightening me to let her go. This is unusual. This feeling is foreign to me. I've never hesitated. Question mark. Uh-oh, everybody. Allora's so attractive and also reminds Hayden of herself, so she just can't kill her. Kinda crazy. Alright. Allura starts to try and like scoot past Hayden, but Hayden grabs the bottom of Allora's white shirt and then laces a rope around her little wrists that are so tiny that she could snap them and prop her up against the nearest wall.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Why do we have to do the same things in all of these kinds of books? I know that this isn't marketed as dark romance, but it still follows a lot of the dark romance formula. What do you mean her wrists are that thin? Stop it. Allura begs her to let her go, and Hayden puts tape on her mouth and feels kind of guilty. She decides she needs to collect her thoughts for a bit, and she needs the incessant whining to stop for like a second. All of this is wrong. Everything is wrong. She wasn't supposed to be here. Why is she here? Who even is she? How the hell did I miss this? There are no records of a fucking kid. If there was, I would have gone about this entirely differently. So one of my questions about like what I don't understand is that before he went into hiding, Allura would have probably been around 8 or 9 years old. So it should have been like pretty easy to discover the information on her because he wasn't trying to hide any of that information when she was like born. I really don't understand why Hayden doesn't know that he has a kid. And as the book goes on, we're gonna learn even more information that kind of makes it like stupid, crazy. So we'll bring it up when we get there. Hayden is having a very difficult time concentrating with Allura freaking the fuck out. And she tells her to shut the fuck up and that she doesn't want to hurt her and that she just wants her to be a good girl, please. She yanks Allura's face and taps it a few times, trying to make her look her in the eye. And Allura stops whining, probably because she is in a freeze state at this moment. Hayden thinks to herself that she was pouring gasoline everywhere before she got interrupted. She grabs Allura and hoists her over her shoulder so that she can carry her downstairs, and then she leaves her at the front door and she heads to the basement to find some tools that she needs. She thinks that she can burn the evidence and it will be investigated as a house fire, and there will be like no trace of what she was doing, like her doing any of this, except for the fact that we all know, based on like a lot of forensic shows that I've seen, that fire does not necessarily destroy forensic evidence. If you don't watch Forensic Files, you need to get on my fucking level. But like, burning things in a fire does not necessarily make the evidence unusable. There is still sometimes DNA evidence, or sometimes the evidence that you killed someone, sometimes the bullets don't like degrade, like sometimes the bodies don't burn enough for them to not be able to tell that it was unnatural. Also, like a lot of times fires are not strong enough to destroy evidence or like traces of gasoline, because like a lot of times we can tell if there's gasoline on a fire, even like trace amounts. When we used to like they used to varnish floors with gasoline because it was cheap when they did that. So like there was even a case on Forensic Files where they accused this guy of killing his parents and committing arson because there was traces of gasoline, but really it was leaded gasoline and they had used it as varnish on the floors. He hadn't poured jack shit. So like we can still tell if there's gasoline. Anywho, there's just a lot of holes in this, okay? And like the author's trying to sell to me that Hayden is some kind of criminal mastermind simply because she was in prison for like 6 years. However, none of it is tracking, and it proves to me that she doesn't know a lot about like forensic information since she, you know, was put in prison. Like Hayden has been in prison, like she just started in prison I think like 10 years ago or something. Yeah, and so that would have been 1999. Forensic evidence has like greatly improved even by the time you hit 2009. So like anyway, she continues to pour gasoline. She's coating the stairs in the basement. When she gets upstairs, she sees Allura is shuffling her. She's trying to get like out of the front door and her wound is just dripping all over the place. Hayden thinks to herself that Allura is stupid and she grabs Allura by the throat. Hayden thinks to herself that she kind of does want to just let Allura run away, but she can't because she obviously knows too much now, and she ties Allura to the stair banister so that she can finish doing the things that she needs to do. I suppose I am going to have to take her with me now, aren't I? Fabulous. Just what I fucking needed. I run for her room, grabbing a bag from the back of her door, filling it with things she may possibly need. Clothes, a book sat on her bedside table, and an elephant teddy sat on her bed. That'll do. She's lucky I'm not a complete dick. I think we've kind of like established that every single time she says that people are lucky that she's not more of a dick or more of a creep or more like a man, she actually is that bad. And maybe she should just stop trying to justify it to herself. Allura is now rocking back and forth, clamping her eyes shut, trying to tell herself that this is not real, like obviously. Hayden decides to have some mercy on Allura and does not set the house on fire. She like doesn't keep spreading the gas around, and she thinks to herself that if Allura ever manages to escape her, she's gonna need a house to come back to, just like she needed a house to come back to after prison. Hayden feels bad because Allura is refusing to look at her, and she strokes away some of the wet strands of hair from her face. She tells Allura to sleep tight, and she hits her with the blunt end of the knife that she has to knock her unconscious. We could go into how people being unconscious actually works, but I don't feel like doing this again. I did this in my last one. There's so much of this book to go through, so like we won't be able to go through all of it because a lot of it's just smut, but like there's still so much material to pull from here, all right? Without even touching the unconsciousness issues. She grabs Allura and she thinks to herself that she doesn't have any sedatives right now, but that there are some in the car and that she can't risk Allura screaming outside, which is why she knocked her out. And she knows that they're in the middle of nowhere, but she doesn't really know where the next house is. You have been casing this place, you have been following him around trying to figure out where he is, and you don't know where the next neighbor is. That's absolutely ridiculous. There are just some points of this book that are so incredibly stupid. She carries Allura out to the car and thinks about how absolutely ridiculous this is because she has never kidnapped anyone before. She wonders what she's meant to do now. Like, should she kill her or should she let her go? Should I just get out of here before she has a chance to turn me in, or do I just finish what I started and kill us both? It's very dark. When they're at the car, she sedates Allura so that she won't wake up for hopefully about 6 hours while she figures out what the hell she is gonna do. She grabbed a bunch of stuff for Allura, which was really nice, and I guess it's nicer than most kidnappers, I suppose. We're just supposed to ignore the murder and the kidnapping. I don't know. Don't you know, Shelby? That's the part that makes this hot. Sure. She props Allura up so it will look like she's just sleeping in the car. Hayden thinks to herself that this will be fine because no one will figure out that the parents are dead until like the middle of the week or later, and she thinks to herself that she's safe for now. Chapter 6, Puppet. When Allura wakes up, she has been blindfolded and her mouth is still taped shut, which heightens her anxiety. She still feels drugged and her head is spinning. She doesn't have a lot of strength left and her wrists are bound, so that she assumes that they are bound to the bed, and it's correct, I think. She's trying to regulate her breathing because she knows that she is panicking, and that panicking is not going to help. She describes her eyes as being uncomfortable, but she describes it as, I feel like I've got stones in my sockets where I've shed so many tears that are still spilling over to focus on my breathing to realize the dirty great gash that split the back of my calf. You have stones in your eye sockets? What does this mean? She tries to shuffle against the bed sheets and her wound is wrapped, but that doesn't make it like any less painful. She doesn't think that they hit anything vital, but that it still hurts a lot and that there's still blood coming out of it. She tries to stretch the tape that's on her mouth to kind of accommodate for her sorrow. She's making a lot of wailing type noises and she is worried about where she even is, which is fair. She's trying to use her senses to figure out where she is, which is good. At least we have a girl who tries to escape. I will give her that. She says that the air smells stale, like the place they're in hasn't been looked after in a while, and she can also smell paint. She can hear some rubber boots shuffling on wooden floorboards and the sound of water running. She thinks that she has to use the bathroom and says that it isn't possible right now. In her own head, she's thinking, hey, Mr. Killer, may I use your bathroom? This is so cringe. I can't even lie. Her heart starts like beating out of control as the person who kidnapped her approaches her, and she's trembling in anticipation. She thinks that she's going to die here, which I do think is kind of a fair assumption after all of this. Allura is about to continue to sob when fingers meet like the outer part of the tape across her mouth, so she like freezes. She thinks that this person smells of leather and men's tacky cologne as she feels them like perched on the bed beside her, indenting into like the mattress. She tries to maneuver herself away from Hayden. Hayden tells her that the longer she fights, the harder it will be for both of them. Their voices like that song you can't stand, scrunching your face in in displease when you hear it play. It's so rough and low it makes my brittle bones rattle. I can only listen, shaking like a leaf as their words slice through my open wound, still bleeding. I don't know how long I've been out, but by the way my muscles have seized like a century-old pipe, it's been a while and it's making it hard to keep calm. So I think you meant scrunching your face in displeasure, and also your muscles seized like centuries-old pipes. Do pipes seize? This is news to me if they do, because they're metal.
What the hell are you talking about?
Allura knows that she is weak and vulnerable, and she is not sure what kind of torture is awaiting her. Hayden is telling her that she never intended for this to happen, and that the person, Hayden, sounds quite guilty to her. Allura goes on to think about the worst scenarios of what could happen next in her mind, which would be being raped, tortured, violence, physical abuse, dismembering, etc. Disquietude is pumping through my cold veins, warming my fight or flight instinct, but I have neither. I'm just helpless prey caught in a trap, waiting to be slaughtered and fed to rabid dogs. I'm really glad that disquietude is pumping through your veins. I was worried that you wouldn't have any disquietude in your veins. Hayden reiterates that Allura wasn't supposed to be a part of this, and she wipes away Allura's tears from her cheeks with leather gloves on. Allura is confused because this person is being tender. Hayden then continues to try and explain, because she says that she really wants it to work out in Allura's favor, tells her to nod if she understands. Allura nods because she is afraid of what will happen if she doesn't comply. She thinks to herself that killers don't kill for no reason. They're always feeding something, and they play with their food if they aren't yet ready to feast again. I feel like she's definitely just talking about serial killers in this instance, but whatever. Technically, Hayden is a serial killer. Not even technically, she's killed a lot of people. We'll get there. Hayden says that she's going to remove the chains when she knows that she can trust Allura, and when she thinks she can tell Allura some information that she thinks she can handle. Allura is very confused by this and cannot figure out why she's doing this, especially if she doesn't want to harm her. She's worried about being lured into a false sense of security, only for it to be torn away later. But Allura is glad that Hayden doesn't want to kill her right this second, though she does wonder what her chances of being kidnapped by a friendly killer is. And she thinks that those chances are slim to none, and thinks, when the hell do you see that on the news? Never. Hayden pushes back off of the bed. Allura hears some fabric moving around and she flinches, which hurts her calf muscle. Hayden tells her she's been out for about 6 hours and she can finally comfort her pain now that she's like conscious again. Allura is very worried about this and wonders what that means, and wonders if this is actually a good thing. By the way, if I'm all smiley, it's because like I'm so uncomfortable. But also, like, this book was actually like a riot. It was so fun to read. Like, it's not good, but it's still somehow like engrossing. I don't know. I used to read terrible fanfic, so I can't even say anything. Allura can hear some glass like dragging on some wood, and Hayden comes over and tells her to open her mouth. Allura is worried about what she's gonna put in her mouth, but she's more afraid of what will happen if she doesn't do it. So she takes the pill, and Hayden gives her the glass of water to like wash it down with Hayden obviously holding it. Allura's still hooked up to the bed. Allura's very relieved because she was thirsty, and she tries to figure out what her kidnapper gave her to like help her with the pain. She starts to fall asleep, and then she remembers that she doesn't have insulin. She realized that she hasn't taken her insulin. It's probably over the time frame of when she should have taken it. She knows that the side effects will be awful, but she thinks that at least she will no longer be a problem and she can be with her parents. This is super depressing and sad. The fact that we go from this to porn is kind of literally insane. Allura falls asleep. She wakes up again. She thinks that the blindfold will still be on, but it isn't, and she can see around the room now. The room is incredibly dusty, and she feels like there's a poignant stench of trauma and pain that makes her skin writhe. I wish I was kidding you right now. Her skin's writhing. She then decides to be super judgmental and wonders why anyone would willingly live here. And you know what? It's kind of a mood, but at the same time, like, girl. She sees a digital alarm clock, and it says that she's been here like over 12 hours. But the British person wrote this in military time, though, which we don't really use in the United States unless you were in the military or you're taking French class and they're forcing you to. She is for some reason worried about smelling bad and needing a shower, when I think that she should be worried about being tortured and murdered and not having her insulin. We need to list out our priorities, and our top priority should be getting away to get some insulin. She can hear her kidnapper moving around in the other room. They're coming closer. She squeezes her eyes closed out of fear, but she sees her dead parents when she closes her eyes, so she opens those eyes right back up. Our poor girl is really going through it. I can't judge her too hard for this, but she's not the brightest in the bunch, so just keep that in mind, okay? Hayden comes in and she's wearing her creepy clown makeup instead of the creepy clown mask. We then get a paragraph about how she's the tallest person ller has ever seen, and she mimics her sleep paralysis even. Hayden tilts her head like a creepy doll. At least she's on brand. Hayden says, almost thought I lost you there. It's important to note that during this time, ller is using they, them pronouns because she isn't sure if her kidnapper is a man or not. And I find that really interesting that the author decided to use these pronouns because it was 2009 and it was not very popular to even use they, them for people overall. I mean, some people still wanted they, them pronouns to be used. I just feel like it was societally less accepting overall. Hayden says there's no way out of those cuffs, puppet. Again, I don't really understand what we're doing with like the clown / circus themed nicknames. There's no circus, there's no clowns. Speaking of which, my next rant review is going to be about like a circus themed book, so look out for that. ller is freaking out and she's wondering how many times Hayden has done this before. She asks Hayden if Hayden is going to kill her. Hayden says, no, but I will if you piss me off. ller asks what she wants from her and Hayden says, nothing. ller doesn't know why, but that makes her feel even worse. That's fair because at least before you could try and figure out something to give her and now you have nothing. ller asks why she's here then. She begs Hayden to let her go and says she doesn't even know what she looks like, which is objectively true. Hayden tells her that she's collateral damage and nothing more. ller thinks, is that meant to comfort me? And like, I agree, how is that supposed to be comforting? Like, she still got kidnapped anyway. That's not really a comfort. I feel like Hayden might just be trying to do it as an explanation, but still it sucks. Instead of asking the other questions she wanted to ask, she asks if she may use the bathroom. She is afraid to ask, but she's more afraid that she will get punished for accidentally peeing all over the bed. Hayden says, since you asked so nicely, and then unties her hands. Hayden says while you're at it, you can have a shower. ller feels very weak and is having a difficult time getting out of bed. She feels so weak and frail that she can't even attempt to like come up with an escape plan. She also has a hard time getting up because of the leg wound, but instead Hayden just like tells her to walk and grabs her forearm and yanks her dead body weight off of the bed. ller thinks about how she must be like feather light to this person, and again the tiniest baby woman trope is back with a vengeance. They lead me out of the bedroom door, towering over my tiny body. I'm hobbling like a granny and I feel like one. How do these people get pleasure out of doing this? They essentially turn themselves into a caretaker for dummies. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at that even though it was incredibly stupid. Yeah, it was definitely something I would have been thinking in the year 2009. Hayden drags her to the bathroom. ller thinks that this bathroom looks like it should be from the set of the first Saw movie, and that is actually quite descriptive without describing anything. I actually quite like that. Hayden tells her she has 2 minutes to like pee and she locks the door from the outside, and ller thinks to herself, who has a bathroom door that only locks from the outside? While inside, ller is looking for a way to escape. Well, I mean, she's looking at herself in the mirror first and she thinks to herself that in 12 hours her life turned from a fairy tale into the dark past of a villain story that they don't tell you about. I would like to remind you that she was basically being held hostage by her parents who would not allow her to do anything, because not only did they think they couldn't allow her to take care of herself, they wouldn't let her go out with her friends, and they used her illness as a way to basically abuse her. And one of those parents also knew that they were being controlling because someone else might try to murder her because he had murdered somebody. ller pulls out one insulin shot that she keeps in her pocket in case of emergencies and she uses it. Her mother makes her do that, like keep it in her pocket. She knows that this will not last long because she takes insulin 3 times a day and she hasn't taken it in over 12 hours. She hears a knock on the door and hears Hayden say that she has 1 minute to pee left. She then has a freak out about her disability and it's incredibly ableist, so we're gonna have to read that paragraph. My own body imprisons me on the daily, a daily reminder that I am damaged goods and will never amount to anything as long as I have this medical condition that is not curable. I am not curable, to be truthful. This is probably the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me, and my body is already shutting down. I feel like an alcoholic without alcohol, a mad hatter without their meds. It will slowly eat away at me until I'm nothing. I will never be normal, but then I suppose no one is normal. What is normal? I would just like to bring up really quickly that ller never gets over her internalized ableism ever. And it's really sad to see, honestly, because we could have done something interesting with this, but they didn't. They didn't do that, no. Hayden says time's up, and quickly ller gets on the toilet and puts the syringe on the window ledge. The door bursts open as ller Allura has already jumped down. Hayden has brought a shirt for Allura to put on to shower in. Allura wonders if this person is just going to watch her change and thinks that they're probably just a pervert. Do you really have to watch me? I find my voice clutching the t-shirt in my hand in protest. There was no way I am stripping naked in front of them. What's the matter, puppet? Never been looked at by a woman before? The air constricts from my lungs, my eyes almost bulging out of my skull. Did they just say woman? There is a deviant grin underneath her face paint, and I don't know how to react to that damn nickname again. If this was a man's doing, I would understand the harsh nature and sick and twisted stunts they have pulled, but a woman? What woman would treat another woman this way? Although it makes sense as to why she has been kinder than most you see on the news. The pillow, the painkillers, wrapping up my wound, the shirt to cover up my dignity. I have more understanding, yet it doesn't get rid of the nausea in my stomach. They chuckle, or should I say she, at my clear confusion before slowly turning around to face the bathtub. At least she has some decency. Don't worry, princess, you're not my type. I think I just barfed in my mouth, shriveling up my face in disgust as I quietly undo my PJs, letting them fall to the floor and put on my new swimsuit that eventually looks like a hospital nightgown on me. I'd say she can't be smaller than 6 feet and I'm only 5'4". It looked ridiculous, but at least I can rinse off this sweat. Oh, there is so much to unpack in this section. So first of all, there's a lot of random gender essentialism. There is Hayden asserting that just because she's a lesbian, she's not attracted to everyone, even though we clearly can tell that she's kind of attracted to the main character and she was attracted to the mom. And again, we have at the bottom, she's the biggest woman to ever exist and I'm the tiniest, smallest woman. You are 5'4", I am 5'3". I am shorter than you. You are not the shortest person in the room. Why do you assume you're the smallest in the room? Allura takes a shower in the t-shirt so Hayden doesn't see anything. Unfortunately, the water starts to seep through her bandage and into her wound, which is incredibly painful. Allura sees that Hayden has been staring at her while she's showering. I feel my cheeks burn, unsure whether it's from the hot water or embarrassment, but even clothed, I feel violated and I'm running on so many emotions right now, I don't know which one to feel. See, I'm glad again that this is an erotic thriller because otherwise I would be like, how are we supposed to get into this? But thankfully, I don't really have to like all of the behavior in this. It's an erotic thriller, not dark romance. We're not trying to be on the side of the romance necessarily. Allura asks Hayden why she's being kind, and Hayden says nothing. Allura thinks to herself, the only clown here is me. I still don't get the clown stuff because the imagery and the ideas are all mixed up all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. Chapter 7, Puppeteer. Kind? She must be joking. I am the furthest thing from kind. Moral, maybe, and even that's pushing it. But kind doesn't sit in my vocabulary. The only kindness I give to the world is eradicating the sickness that's poisoned it, which still results in me taking lives and paying the consequences. Kindness never got me fucking anywhere but hurt. Kindness only granted me pain. Kindness only made me realize I was weak. Being kind doesn't give you special treatment or help you avoid anything. The last time I was kind, I got 10 lashings for using the last of the sugar in a birthday cake. That word makes my skin shrivel up like a decaying corpse. It's acidic in my mouth. I'm not being kind. I'm being considerate. There's a difference. Normally, this would be perfectly acceptable, sort of, except that Hayden is 29 years old. Why are you acting like such an edgelord when you're 29 years old? I know you were in prison, so you didn't get to develop normally, but I think at this point, that there isn't an excuse. Hayden is now starting to think she needs to be careful about what she says and does, because if Allura gets out, she'll show them the first place to look and she can't be around for that. Yeah, it was really stupid of you to bring her to your house when she didn't even know who you are. She couldn't have identified you. You had a clown mask and clown makeup on at the same time. She didn't even know what gender you were. I don't understand why you kidnapped her other than that you're kind of hard up for chicks. She thinks to herself this. Who knew babysitting was so tiring? She's a toddler in an adult's body. I'm so glad I was an only child so I don't have to deal with this shit. Shep is enough when he's having a tantrum. She's young enough to be a sibling, but fuck, it's been a while since I've seen some skin. My eyes have a mind of their own, watching her rub her skin of my touch. It makes me want to touch her again, grip tighter so she remembers who and what I fucking am. The last thing I want is for her to get comfortable, but I don't exactly want to kill her either. That would just go against everything that I am, or I'm trying to be. See, I just want to have a good time. I don't want to be reminded of this huge age gap. And it's mainly because it's brought up a lot, and I don't don't fuck with people who start sexualizing people the second they turn 18. And again, she also views her as a child, so it's super gross and weird. It gives me like the biggest ick ever. And like I said, 18-year-olds are babies. They're just huge babies. She could have accidentally kidnapped a fully grown woman who just happened to be sheltered for whatever reason, but no, we're trapped here with this. She thinks about how she needs to just wait this out, how she doesn't want to drag her contacts into this mess. Do we hear about these contacts ever again? Not really, nope. They're not really important to this story. She thinks that she's staring at Allura, that Allura hates her, and that's a good thing because she murdered her parents in cold blood. I mean, you had a deeply personal connection to it and you were so furious, so I don't think we can call it like cold-blooded murder. She thinks that Allura is being fairly compliant and doesn't have a backbone. Pretty rude coming from someone who murdered her entire family and kidnapped her. Hayden hates that Allura's vibe screams kindness. The absence of heat directs my eyes to the one place they shouldn't, and I'm no better than a man, but fuck. The outlining of her tits against my soaking t-shirt is making me realize I haven't got laid in a long ass time. Far too fucking long. I've been so caught up in finding her daddy that indulging in pussy hasn't exactly been on my to-do list. I've no interest in sex beyond numbing my mind. Prison wasn't exactly a strip club, but I still got it. I was nearly caught a few times, but that was the thrill of it. I had nothing better to do and it helped my brain stop thinking for a while. Remember that the paragraph not that long ago, like a page before, about how childlike Allura was to you, and now you're staring at her tits under your t-shirt? That's her, officer, the one with the clown makeup. She keeps checking out Allura because we all knew what this was when we opened this book. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Allura is done with her shower and Hayden tells her to move. Can Hayden let her move on her own? No. I grip her moist flesh, still caked in water that has not evaporated yet, making it a little trickier, but her arms are so small, my thumb and middle finger are still touching. So dainty and frail I could snap it. That would solve another problem. If she only had one arm in operation on top of her severed leg, there ain't no hope in hell she would try to run. But I always love a good chase, and I'm not against being threatened by the idea, just to see how much fight she has in her. I think I would have loved this book way more if we weren't like trapped inside Hayden's head. I kind of wish we were stuck in Allura's head the entire time. Yeah, she's a little stupid, but she's 18, so she kind of gets a free pass for now anyway. This is supposed to be a slow burn, but we all know Hayden's thoughts pretty quickly, so it doesn't completely feel like one. They get back to the bedroom. Allura is glaring at the clothes that Hayden set out for her. Hayden doesn't know why she did it, but I do. Because she's a creep who likes barely illegal girls. Again, I feel like this book was dark enough without you adding like a insane 10-year age gap with her being 18 years old. Hayden thinks to herself she could just lock Allura in the room without putting the restraints on, but instead just like faces the door and doesn't watch her change. After Hayden takes out the cuffs again, and she's not sure how smart Allura is, but she knows a locked door isn't enough because she has like errands to run. She does as she's told, lying back on the bed like a good girl, wearing a turtleneck sweater. It's black and frayed at the cuffs. She's a chewer. I tug the fabric over her wrist before cuffing it to the bar above her head, her natural odor wafting under my nose as I tower over her vulnerable body. I decide against both wrists, and I hope for her sake I don't regret how considerate I'm being. I pull away from her and her stomach growls in response. I fight back a smile, or even worse, a laugh. My puppet is hungry. And feeding my victims isn't exactly where I thought this would go, but she's looking sorry for herself, and giving her something to munch on is the least I can do after what I have put her through. Not that I give a shit personally, but I'd rather she didn't starve to death under my roof. She won't look at me, but she knows I heard that too, and there is heat illuminating her pale complexion. Again, being trapped in her head sometimes is just too much. She says she doesn't care, but she clearly does. I wish there was some more showing instead of telling. I have a lot of similar complaints with a lot of these books. Hayden goes out to the kitchen and grabs her some Twinkies because she eats out most of the time. She goes back and throws them into Allura's lap. Allura is having a hard time at first because one of her arms is cuffed and one isn't, and Hayden says, "You're cuffed, not disabled. Use your mouth." Before thinking to herself, maybe she's not as smart as I thought she might be. Followed by, "What an idiot." Oh my fucking god. Like, I cannot. Like, she's right, but it's still rude. "I'm heading out. I will be back in a few hours. Don't do anything stupid." That look of sarcasm rolls her eyes like she could do anything stupid cuffed to a bed in a locked room, but it amuses me all the same. She's a plaything. My plaything. And if she rolls her fucking eyes at me, I'll give her a real reason to roll them. Where? She's asking like a psycho-jealous girlfriend. Does she really think I'm going to disclose that sort of information when I've known her for not even 24 hours? I step slowly slowly inside the room until I'm invading her space, the dampness of her hair thick within the air surrounding her. Bending to her level until I'm inches from her face, I whisper through gritted teeth as she peers up at me. The pits of hell. The sun slips through the cracks, highlighting the honey glow beneath her timid eyes. The color is one I've never seen before, the deepest field of sunflowers you could get lost in. A golden compass, a compass I'm slightly worried will deter me away from what I need to do, leading me in a different direction, one I do not want to follow as I find myself staring a little too long. Being in her mind is punishment. We went from I didn't intend to kidnap you to saying that she's your plaything. We are going from 0 to 100 in no time flat. Chapter 8, Puppet. Laura is starting to get bored as hell. She thinks that it's only been a couple of hours, but she has done like all 3 things that she can do. Count the markings on the wall, sob until she can't anymore, and read the book that Hayden brought her that she's read over and over and over. She finds it strange that Hayden bothered to grab her book. She took one of my books from my bedside table that night and has given it to me. I already find that strange enough. Why would a killer even give me the time of day? But then again, she hasn't exactly been the worst. Not that that makes this any better. I noticed how she put the cuff over the fabric of my shirt, and I might be totally delusional, but I think that was to protect my wrist. I understand that sometimes victims of crimes like these ones come to sympathize with their abuser, with their kidnapper. I'm not making fun of them, I promise, but it has been less than 24 hours and she's already reading into everything Hayden does. It just feels a little lazy because we're only at 12% in this book and we're not that far off from the kidnapping event. Allura starts crying again, can't really blame her. She's been having a very hard time. She's also starting to feel the effects of not taking her insulin. Her mind is running wild thinking about what Hayden is off doing right now. She thinks about Hayden hurting other people or that she may never come back. She also thinks about how no one is going to find her parents' bodies until like the middle of the week at least, probably, unless Casey realizes that she's missing because she doesn't respond to her. She wonders about what kind of evidence Hayden could have left behind, and she also thinks that jail time is too kind and that maybe she'll just kill her herself. She then doesn't know why she thought that, but she's in a life or death situation, so I know exactly why she thought that. Even on death's door, I am still seeking redemption in evil when evil does not deserve forgiveness. People choose to be evil, yet I find myself sympathizing with the devil, trying to find a reason as to why. What hurt them? What pain did they suffer? Were they just born this way? You were 18 years old and you were not old enough to understand how deeply complicated things are, and the rest of the book will show you that. Even though there are many points where she irks me as a character, I do truly feel for her because she's going through it. She eventually falls asleep after crying. Page break. She wakes up and starts immediately thinking some edgelord shit, like wondering what it's like to die. She says that she used to worry when she had something to live for, but I would argue that she's kind of been in confinement for most of her life already. Like, what was she living for? I'm not trying to be a dick, but you complained about your parents and your only friend, and you use maladaptive daydreaming to write your stories.
What the hell are you talking about?
Hayden is back, and when she sees Allura, she's immediately like, what is wrong with you? Allura can barely see straight at this point, and her speech is starting to slur. Like you care. If she does, that's a first. A psychopath with feelings beyond murder is unheard of. Oh look, demonizing an already stigmatized mental illness. Feels like I can predict these books at this point. Hayden says that she sounds drunk, and Allura says, I wish it would make this process a lot easier. Hayden has no idea what is going on and looks deeply concerned and asks, what process? A hiccup-like laugh jumps out of me at her curiosity, slumped into my seat with a now very dead arm, strung up like a skinned pig, ... It's sweet that she wants the ins and outs of my demise. Very serial killer of her. Okay, I did kind of like this snarky line. If I was going through this shit, I would probably be thinking that too. Allura says she's all out. Hayden says all out of what? Allura hopes that the guilt is catching up with her, and you know what? Hell yeah. She tells her insulin, and Hayden doesn't know what that means. Allura thinks that Hayden seems like she's getting annoyed, and something else, like she might be mad that like something else will take her life. Oh brother. Hayden asks what happens if she doesn't take it, and Allura says hyperglycemia, but she's never experienced anything close to this ever. She thinks about vomiting herself to death, and for a moment she doesn't want to die because she hates vomiting. I don't really know anyone who likes that particular function, girl. At this rate, I want to ask her to end it quickly so I don't have to suffer like she did with them. Like she could do for me, but I am her walking karma and I want her to suffer for the pain she caused me. I want her to feel mine as I deteriorate in front of her very eyes. Maybe ignite that sliver of redemption she has inside her, if there is any, and be too late to stop it, as if she ever would. She is a killer. I do love this level of spite. Truly no notes. Hayden asks how long it takes, and Allura says, wouldn't you like to know?
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
Where are your parents?
She asks again how long, and Allura can see that Hayden looks like frightened. She tells her anywhere from 6 hours to 4 days. I don't know how accurate this is. If you have diabetes, pop off. Let me know in the comments. Allura says, don't worry, I'm saving you the trouble. You won't have to kill me now. Hayden asks if it's uncomfortable, and Allura says it's bearable, but she thinks to herself, for now. She's getting hot and cold flashes, loss of feeling in her legs, constant nausea, pounding migraines. She is stronger than the US military, but most of us with chronic illness are. She asks Hayden if Hayden's just gonna sit there and watch her die a slow and painful death. Hayden says she has better things to do with her time, like babysit me. I mumble sarcastically, trying to revive that hidden Cheshire cat smile underneath the fake one painted on her face. It's hideous, but her real one is not so repulsive. Either that or I really am losing the plot. You have beautiful eyes, I whisper as I stare at her like someone on Molly, and all I can concentrate on is how her eyes are piercing through mine, reading all my thoughts like a book, a familiar understanding that I don't quite know the extent of. Shared pain. She has a book with empty pages, but I'm a book with a plain cover and 1,000 of unspoken words inside, which she is clearly reading. I focus on the silver jewelry scattered across her face now that she is close enough to look at properly. We are gonna cut her some slack because she is high as a kite. Just this once, when she's doing better, we're not giving her the same treatment, okay? Hayden says she's hallucinating, and Allura wants to know her name because she's dying, and she's like, I can't snitch on you. Hayden says, nice try, princess. We really don't have like a coherent thought when it comes to like the many different nicknames, by the way. There is some awkward banter before Hayden asks, have you gone through this before? And Allura says, nope. Hayden asks if there is a way to fix this, and Allura says she has a hypo pen at home, but she says she's out of luck if she's looking for redemption. Hayden says there is no repentance for me. Allura asks why she didn't kill her, and Hayden says she's a criminal, not a monster. Allura says criminals are monsters, and Hayden says you got me there, love. Love is capitalized again, by the way. It's capitalized at all kinds of weird times during this book. Again, I feel like if this book had an editor, it could have really been something. Could have really been something. Chapter 9, Puppeteer. We're back with Hayden, and Allura is asking if she's ever thought about dying. Hayden is busy trying to convince herself she doesn't care what happens to Allura, but she so clearly does because it was lust at first sight. No, I lie. She doesn't need to know she is the reason I am still breathing right now, and for that, I want the satisfaction of taking her life myself. It is like so clear that Hayden cannot contextualize other feelings as anything other than the desire to kill people. Please remember that Hayden is also being an edgelord this entire time in her own head. But if I tell you all of her edgy thoughts all of the time, we will be here for 10 hours. Allura asks why she does this, which means like killing people, and Hayden lies and says because it calms her. She thinks that it keeps her monsters at bay, but I would argue that it doesn't, because she's running around torturing and killing people. Hayden thinks about how she doesn't have time to just sit here and watch Allura dying because she has shit to do. She hopes that when she gets back she'll be dead so that she can just go back to her original plan of self-unaliving. As she is going to leave the room, Allura grabs onto her open pockets and tells her thank you. My chest constricts. She doesn't know what she just did, but I do, and this changes everything, but I can't admit that to myself yet. Thank you? Thank you for what? She's dying because of me, and I wish she'd hurry up and get it over with so my mind can fucking relax. Her eyes are closed. Her hold on my pocket seemed to be the last strain of strength she had as her arm falls limp to the bed. She said 6 hours minimum. Maybe she calculated wrong, stupid girl. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. She goes to leave. She says goodbye to Shep the dog, thinking to herself that he's the only thing keeping her remotely sane, but that directly contradicts what she said about death keeps her monsters at bay. But who cares about consistency from page to page? I think we can all see where this is going. She gets in the truck and she goes that one direction at first, and then she turns around and goes back to the 4-hour drive to Alora's house to get her medications. The engine roars, mimicking the sound of my rage as I grip the wheel tightly, grinding my back teeth, trying to take my mind off the forgiveness in her eyes, her limp body on my bed, her acceptance as she lies there and waits for her end like a good little victim, feeling all sorry for herself. But I'm not the one doing it. It's not enough. This ending is wrong. Her death is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. ... If anyone is going to kill her, it's going to be me. How it should be. Thank you. Her words repeat like one of my mom's old CDs, grating my gears as she would replay it through till the early hours of the morning just to keep the voices in her head quiet. Voices I have now inhabited. Her voice. My very own burnt CD. She will never forgive me. I know that. I don't want her to. I'm selfish. I'm as selfish as they fucking get, and I will save her ass just to kill her again if I have to. Whatever this is eating her alive is taking my kill. She is mine to kill. I didn't do all this shit for something to wipe her out for me. I want to watch her bleed for me. I want to take her last breath. Have you ever thought about going to therapy? Probably not, because this is the year 2009, but it's just a thought. She goes to Alora's house and she thinks these crazy rambling thoughts about how Alora needs to realize the world is ugly and she needs to know the world is...
There's a hole in the world like a great black pit, and it's filled with people who are filled with shit, and the vermin of the world inhabit it.
She thinks that Alora deserves to know about why Alora's father hid her from his past and created a fake life, and she thinks that she needs to understand me. Page break. Hayden goes back to Alora's house, and no one has discovered the dead bodies yet. She's wearing gloves so she doesn't leave fingerprints as she searches through Alora's room. She finds a full case of her prescription in her drawer. This is where I point out again that insulin has to be refrigerated. I'm just putting it out there. I'm pretty sure most insulin has to be refrigerated. She also grabs the HypoPen. I'm pretty sure she also writes a note pretending they're on vacation. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, Hayden creeps in her room, because she wasn't in this room while she murdered Alora's parents. She goes through drawer by drawer, taking clothes, her phone, and her charger, but she thinks to herself, I don't even know I'm taking her phone. I'm not going to give it to her. So I don't really know why she's taking it either. She looks at Alora's bedroom calendar, which is full of appointments and reminders, and thinks, no wonder Alora wants to kick the bucket. There's also a happy doomsday to me, another year older, and I'm still single, yay, on the calendar, which Hayden laughs at because she relates, but she also thinks that Alora isn't missing much. She takes the calendar with her too. She jumps back in the truck and tries to convince herself that she doesn't even care about Alora because she's just her hostage. She's just collateral damage. We did it. We said the thing again. She also thinks that she will never apologize for grieving in her own way. Grieving in your own way killed many people, but if you say so. She thinks about how Alora is her karma and she's damn beautiful karma. Page break. She pulls up to the driveway and Hayden thinks she forgot to leave a light on for Alora. Not that it would matter because she's so loopy. Hayden gets inside and Alora is limp and lifeless. Hayden thinks that she can't really be dead, but she can't figure out why she cares. She tries to get Alora to wake up and Alora's not getting up. She has a very shallow heartbeat. Hayden has a traumatic flashback when her mother died and thinks, I can't do this shit. She grabs the HypoPen and injects her with it. She starts freaking out because Alora is not waking up immediately, begging her to come back as she continues to have this flashback. She thinks about how she couldn't save her mother even though she tried to put pressure on the wound. Hayden punches a wall, putting a hole in the plaster. We love when men do it so much, so we're so excited about a butch lesbian doing it. It's so great. I miss those damn eyes. I need her to wake up and fucking look at me. I need her to fucking see me for what I am, what she is doing to me, and punish her deeply for it. God damn it, don't you dare fucking die on me. Not now, not ever. I shake her relentlessly, digging for a breath, a sound, anything. I hate you for making me give a shit. I hate it. I hate it. I hate everything she is. I hate how she's crawled under my skin like the flu, trembling to chase life back into her inanimate body. An audible gasp inhales beneath me as she sucks in a deep breath, not chasing it fast enough as she chokes on air, grabbing her throat like I'd slit it open. I wish I had. It means I wouldn't have just had to relive the worst day of my life with a girl I shouldn't even give a fuck about. I've known her for 24 hours. I'm pathetic. I'm glad we agree that you're pretty pathetic. I'm glad we're on the same page there. While Hayden is still very conflicted, she thinks that the only person who's allowed to take Alora's miserable life is her when she sees fit and not when Alora fucking chooses. Chapter 10. Alora is starting to feel a little bit better and she sees that Hayden Hayden is staring at her. She's thinking she needs to eat some sugar, but also wonders why she's still alive. Hayden says, you didn't think I'd make it that easy for you, did you? Allura doesn't understand why she didn't just let her die when Allura feels like she was just making her life easier. Allura decides she's going to make her regret her kindness. Allura asks why, and Hayden ignores this, saying that Allura needs to eat and rest. Allura cannot figure out why she seems so formal and without a care, but her actions say something else. I mean, I don't think her actions say anything else. I only think she cares about Allura in relation to how she feels about herself and her own wants. I don't think she cares about Allura. I think she does come to care about her later in the book, but I don't think right now she cares about Allura in any meaningful way. What Allura thinks to herself that Hayden is delusional if she thinks that this will change anything. Hayden leaves for a bit and Allura clings to the old bed because she feels like garbage. She thinks she doesn't have much energy to eat, but Hayden brings her some pasta and Allura gives a little smile that she didn't intend to give. She asks Hayden where she got the hypo pen. Hayden says, don't worry about it, and she tells her to eat. Allura asks how long she was out for. Hayden tells her enough questions. Hayden watches her eat in silence, and Allura eats about half before laying down to sleep. Page break. Allura goes in and out of consciousness for the next few days. Hayden has just been sitting and watching over her or leaving a mess. Allura thinks that this is creepy and like stalker behavior. Hayden has extended her restraints with chains so that Allura can get up a little bit now. Allura can hear Hayden punching something through the door and can also hear music. Allura remembers that Hayden is a serial killer and is freaked out about it, but she didn't think that she would save her life. Allura still wants to die and she wants Hayden to finish what she started. Allura comes out of her room to see Hayden in like a long black tee. She still has the face paint on and she has a glass of water and like a packet of something in her hand. Allura's like, don't you have people to murder? And Hayden's like, bold of you to assume I'm not. Hayden whistles and Shep comes to stare at Allura. Allura is very happy to see another form of life that isn't Hayden, even though she says, in quotes, Shep is practically twice the size of her.
Sure, Jan.
I think we don't know the sizes of German Shepherds, I fear. Allura asks if she's killing people and Hayden says, yes, does that scare you, puppet? Allura asks again why she saved her. Hayden says, save isn't the word I'd use. And then she says, only I'm allowed to kill you. What better kill than completing a triangle? She knocks her frame back into the seat, smiling like a psych ward patient, running the arms of the chair between her hands. Like just thinking about it is making her hot and bothered, and I feel sick. I know exactly what she means. She means killing off the offspring to end the family name. Like that's a trophy achievement. Thank you for explaining that to us. I was worried it would slip right past us because, you know, we readers, we're so incredibly stupid. Allura says, I was just starting to think there was like a smidget of kindness inside you. Turns out you're just like all the others. Hayden shoots up and grabs Allura's throat.
Whoa! Touched a nerve there.
Hayden says, let's get one thing fucking clear and then this. Nothing about me is kind. You think me feeding you and keeping you breathing is for your benefit. Keep seeing the good in people and watch where it gets you. You're a body bag, my plaything. I take great pleasure in keeping you alive because I know how desperately you want to die. My stomach churns with disgust. She is like the rest of them. She is a pig. She's vile, and once I gather back my strength, I'm getting the fuck out of here or I'll die trying. My eyes well, but not with sadness as of right now, with anger. My plaything? I'm not a chew toy. I am a human being. I am a grieving girl captured by the devil disguised inside a human body. I do love that Allura, despite wanting to see the best in everybody, does try very hard to escape throughout this book. One thing I will say is I think the beginning of the book has a really good mix of her feeling hopeless and not doing anything and her actively trying to actually escape. Hayden asks if she makes herself clear. Allura nods. Hayden says, good girl, and strokes her cheek before slapping her in the face and says that she has to learn to use her words. Oh, ugh. No thank you. Hayden grabs Allura's insulin. Allura asks to do it herself and Hayden says, suit yourself. Hayden leans into her level and gets like really close. If you keep things from me or lie to me again, I will show you just how kind I am. She whispers with such aggression, my heart flutters, sucking down my urge to test her, but I won't, not yet. Or I might just let him tear you apart. Her eyes dart to her left where her canine sits glaring at the both of us, and I know I'm not afraid of dogs, but I also know not to mess with one. Who knows what her dog is capable of when its owner is a literal literal crazy person. There is a lot of like mental health stigma slash ableism in this book. I will say it is pretty period accurate, unfortunately though. Chapter 11. Hayden has come back. She was gone for about an hour. Allura has gotten out of her cuffs and has obliterated Hayden's house. Gotta say I respect it. Hayden was out looking into Allura's treatment and she got her hands on a ton of insulin. How? I'm not sure. The doctor just gave it to her. So is she trying to pretend that she has diabetes and is lying about her weight? Fucked if I know. She says she has enough, that there will be enough until like Allura is old and gray, allegedly. However, there are expiration dates on these things, but we're not going to think about that. Hayden locks Shep in the garage so that he can stay out of whatever happens next. Hayden knows that there's no other way out of the house because of how she has it set up. She says 1, 2, daddy's coming for you. 3, 4, puppet run for that door. I also just think that saying daddy in this context when it's going to be sexual is icky because you kidnapped her. I said what I said. She thinks about how she spent 4 years hunting Allura's dad down, so Allura thinking that she can hide within her own house is fucking stupid. But she checks the rooms, hasn't found her yet. She goes into her mom's room. She can't hear Allura at all. And then she thinks about how much her mom loved this room, and she looks at the old blood stain from her mom dying on the carpet. Allura comes up behind her with a kitchen knife. This gets stuck between her thumb and index finger, and she pushes Hayden into the wardrobe. Hayden pulls the knife out and she slams the door to the room shut, but Allura has another knife because she's a baddie. Unfortunately for Allura, Hayden thinks this is really hot, at what point saying, I hate to admit how hot this is, but it's been a while since I've tasted physical pain and my hand isn't the only thing throbbing. What the fuck? What? Hayden like pushes off of the door slowly and Allura says don't, like trying to threaten her, and Hayden says I've seen chihuahuas more frightening than this. But it's not her threat that frightens Hayden, it's the way that she's crumbling. She hasn't had a chance to grieve. It's finally catching up with her. She's like, I realize now I shouldn't have left her to her own devices, trying to figure things out for herself. Hayden is thinking about, while she can't relate to this exact experience, she can kind of relate to like the extreme feelings that Allura is feeling right now. Allura is saying you killed them and she's crying. Hayden is not helpful in her head though and says, I want to smack those tears off her fucking face and really give her something to cry about. See, it's really hard to be in this person's head. Allura says that she ruined her life and Hayden thinks to herself she's not wrong, but like, I'm selfish, I don't really care. She tells Allura to put the knife down. Allura says that like it hurts like really so much that I can't take it. The cracking in her voice is forming a lump in my throat. I'll be honest, this is a first for me and I feel like an inexperienced mother hearing their baby cry for the first time. It's ear fucking and grating my gears, but I have this urge to find a solution to stop her from sobbing like a bloody baby. Again, the baby stuff, when like you're gonna fuck her. Like, we know that. We know you are. So like, I don't like that. I don't like it. Allura begs to know why she's doing this to her. And she's like, I told you this is not how I wanted this to go. And Allura's like, what now then? What are we going to do now then? Like, are you going to keep me here until I'm rotting bones? Are you going to bury me in your backyard? What are you going to do to me? Hayden thinks to herself that keeping her sedated might have been a better option, but she tells Allura to give her the knife and says that she will not ask again. Hayden is oddly kind of proud of her in her head though, because the impression she has of Allura is that Allura has never had any control of her own life, so she is kind of proud of her for standing up to her. But like, again, kind of weird. Allura says, I will kill you. Hayden thinks this is adorable because I could snap her in like 0.3 seconds, but her whining is getting really annoying. She says, this isn't a horror movie. If I kill you, you will stay dead. And Allura's like, good, I want to die. She's like, I swear to God, I will make your life miserable for every second that you keep me alive. And Hayden thinks to herself, I don't doubt that she will try. I don't doubt it. And she's like, but if she thinks I'm gonna put up with her bratty behavior, she has another fucking thing coming. Hayden says, I don't want to hurt you. Don't give me a reason to. And then Allura starts like laughing, like sarcastically, and Hayden thinks, I want to wrap my hand around her pretty little throat. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. All right. Allura says, let me go. Hayden says, give me some time to get my shit together and I will let you go and you'll never see me again. Allura says, no, you don't get to run away from this. I will kill you if the cops don't get here first. Hayden kind of huffs and thinks to herself that there are no houses for miles. No one is ever going to find out, and that she's like more delusional than she thought. But Allura, may I remind you, has not been outside. So how the fuck is she supposed to know that? She thinks to herself though that it's also not Allura's fault for hoping, because she used to feel that way when she was in her prison cell. She tells Allura that no one is is coming for you. You can kick, you can scream, you can do whatever you want. The windows are all boarded up. We're the only one for miles and miles. So either you play ball and I can try to make this as comfortable for you as possible, or I can make this ugly. Your choice. She screams, fuck you, which is, you know, good for Allura. Lucky for her, I don't put my hands on women, not unless self-defense is necessary. And I feel there may be quite a lot of that if she carries on being a spoiled little brat. Yet by the way she is directing that knife, I don't think she intends on being here much longer. Yeah, so I don't believe that you don't put your hands on women because you were in a women's prison. You were probably getting in fights because you can't control yourself. So I don't really believe that, but whatever. She tells Allura to put the fucking knife down again before I have to get physical. She takes another step toward her. She also says, so what if you kill me? Then you'd be the one behind bars. And she's like, I would claim self-defense. And she's like, and you know what? They'd probably believe you too. She thinks to herself that she doesn't wear a badge, but she's still the daughter of an ex-detective who used the same excuse and got away with it. And she's like, what the fuck are you, what's that supposed to mean? That it would probably work out for me. And she's like, you're a blackthorn after all. And she clearly does not know what happened, so she doesn't understand what the fuck Hayden's talking about. She's like, why am I still here? What are you not telling me? And Hayden's thinking, because I enjoy this game of Clue, because I want her to figure it out. Daddy's helpless little girl defending herself against the big bad monster who killed her parents finally stops the killer. Now that would be a great headline for the papers. I approach once more, swaying my broad shoulders in her direction, egging on her anger so she deters that blade away from her prominent artery. Allura says, come any fucking closer and I'll add another body count to your list like I should have done last week, you sick fuck. Hayden still isn't sure why she like gives a fuck. It's like, I don't know why you do either. She says Allura as she comes closer and Allura's like, how do you know my fucking name? Don't say my fucking name. Hayden isn't able to lunge while she's like distracted and grips her little wrist with her big old hand. She grazes, I think, her own arm a little bit and she like screams about it. And then they're kind of getting blood on both of them. They collide into the wardrobe and Allura yelps in pain and she kicks her legs out like a child as Hayden is like holding her up from the floor and she's holding her leg crossed against like constricted. Allura says, I didn't ask for any of this, let me fucking go. And Hayden says, keep fighting, princess, it makes it more enjoyable for me. Oh yeah. She bites Hayden in the bicep. It does make her loosen her grip a little bit. Apparently being a punching bag for my little innocence is proving to relieve me of some pent-up anger and quieting my demons. Who knew she had it in her? Okay, what the fuck? Anyway, Allura's like, come on, fight back, fight back. And she starts like hitting her with her little scrunched up fists and pounding Hayden's chest. Hayden says, if you're so eager to die, let me make it quick for you. And she yanks both of her wrists and she rotates her Two-Face away from Hayden's body and she pulls out a gun and shoves the barrel inside her mouth. And then she says, fucking listen to me. She also thinks to herself that the mag is empty, but this is still a really fucked up thing to do to someone, okay? I fucking get it. I get this anger you're feeling. I get this hunger for vengeance. I get that swelling ache that feels like it's collapsing your lungs. That overwhelming urge to want to make all the pain go away. You have to fight it. You have to fucking suck it up and survive. You have to be better than that. Better than me. Okay. And Allura's looking up at her with tears in her eyes because there is a gun in her mouth that she doesn't know is not loaded. Hayden then thinks about how she's dangerous and Allura's so pure and it makes my skin crawl and I want to corrupt her and it's like, oh my god, stop. Hayden says to Allura, you're not a monster, stop acting like one. And she thinks to herself, every second I am with her, I feel like my wall is being lowered and it's driving me insane. Nearly 2 weeks in and she is proving to be my biggest problem yet. She then removes the gun from Allura's mouth. Hayden thinks to herself that she has a weakness that Hayden is growing very fond of, which is like alarming. And she thinks about how she spent 4 years without much human company and she's kind of like doing something to her brain apparently. I think it's just the horny personally, but whatever. She puts the gun back in her pocket and looks down at the open gash in Allura's arm and she gently strokes the flesh surrounding the wound with her thumb, wanting so desperately to run my tongue against it. Ugh. Ugh. She's like, okay, now let's get this wrapped up before you bleed out and like, you're foolish. She's like, you're so foolish. It's the next day for me. We know how we roll. I have a full-time job. It's ass. Like, comment, subscribe so I don't have to work it anymore. Chapter 12, we're back with Allura. She's very worried about how far she can push Hayden before Hayden snaps. And I think that that's a really realistic, real fear that you should have when you've been kidnapped by someone who's very blatantly unpredictable. Allura is back to being tied to the metal bed frame again. Hayden asks her if she's ever hurt herself before. Allura says no, but she doesn't know why Hayden's being so empathetic. Hayden says, is my company truly that unbearable? And Allura thinks to herself, in what world would her company be bearable? And that's kind of iconic as fuck. It's kind of weird to ask your captive audience if they find your company bearable. Allura says, you are a permanent reminder of my loss. Like, how could I ever find comfort in your solitude? She's being very poetic about it. Hayden says, I don't expect you to, which is kind of contradicting what the fuck you just said, but whatever. And Allura's like, her manipulation tactics are smooth. I'll give her that. I'm like, okay, so at least you do know she's kind of manipulating you. And Allura's like, I don't even understand why you care. Like, if that's not the case, I don't understand. And Hayden is like, because what you did was brave but stupid. And she's like, I know that you're stronger than that. That's stupid. I'm like, you don't even know her yet, so Hayden, calm the hell down. I will never forgive you, so stop trying so damn hard. I say, glaring at the ceiling, pulling focus on the patchwork excuse for a paint job and the layers that are peeling off. The house just screams murder house if I ever saw one. Gives me the creeps. I don't want you to. My eyes shift to hers and my brows narrow. Why is she not fighting her corner? Why is she not fighting back? Fighting her corner is kind of weird, but all right. Then what do you want from me? I thrash around, causing her to grip my arm so tightly it could snap as both our heated glares rest on one another. I want you to know the truth, and then I will let you decide whether you want to hand me in or not. If she thinks for 1 second her little sob story is going to magically change my mind, she is highly mistaken. ... That part of me is long gone. That part of me got hurt. I refuse to be hurt anymore. She says she doesn't want to be part of her sick revenge fantasy, which is totally fair. Hayden says, has anyone ever told you how tough you really are? And I'm assuming we mean emotionally because we keep saying we can just snap her little brittle bones.
Some guys have all the luck. I was born with glass bones and paper skin. Every morning I break my legs, and every afternoon I break my arms. At night, I lie awake in agony until my heart attacks put me to sleep. Oh, no! No! Ow.
Allura says I'm not tough because, like, I mean, she's pretty much been hammered into her that she's like a fragile little flower her entire life. Hayden says it's not every day I get chunks missing out of my arm from an 18-year-old girl. As crazy as this sounds, that didn't sound half bad coming out of her mouth. It's also as crazy as the fact she even had to say that. It's also as crazy as the fact that she even had to say that. That's a really weird, whatever. I told you this is basically unreadable on most levels, okay? And the way she knows my age, I took a chunk out of her arm just to stay alive. Who even am I? Allura says it's not every day I have to fight for my life. And Hayden says, well, get used to it, puppet. I'm the type of sicko your daddy warned you about. It feels a little bit cartoonishly stupid in a lot of places. I have to warn you guys. And Allura's like, you would know, huh? You have a little serial killer fan club. And I'm like, what are we talking about? I know that those exist, but they're disgusting. Hayden's like, you have quite the imagination. She's like, well, you clearly know a few. And Hayden's like, well, yeah, when you've spent a while in prison, you can meet some serial killers if you want. She's like, you've been to prison? Your dad was a cop. You were literally trying to figure out why your dad was like hated by this person. He's a cop. Where do cops put people, Allura? Prison. And she's like, 6 years. She's like, 6 years and she's out killing people again? Yeah, obviously she's out killing people again. What are we talking about? It's like, then why did you jeopardize your freedom? Revenge has a funny way of clouding your judgment. It's why I refuse to let you make the same mistake I did. The disbelief on my face right now. Did she just try to imply I have serial killer tendencies because I want to imagine stabbing her? Now that I say that, that's what a serial killer would think about ... I mean, no, I think that you're trying to get out of being held hostage. I think sometimes violence needs to be answered with violence. I think that's why people who are so high up in power tried to convince us that violence isn't the answer, because violence often is the answer. So she's like, you're not a killer, puppet. Oh yeah, okay. Allura's like, if you are trying to build a bridge, you keep breaking it. She's like, I thought you didn't care. And Hayden's like, well, I just didn't want to get any more holes in my hand. Allura's like, are you not gonna wrap that up? Because it's like still free bleeding. And she's like, I gave you the last bandage. So I'm like, girl, use a shirt, use a blanket, use a towel, do something. She says it so nonchalantly, like I meant to say thank you or something. Why do I want to? She deserves to bleed. This good guy act isn't going to get under my skin, but there's a small part of me that's smiling somewhere in my subconscious. I can feel it. Well, if you can feel it, it's not in your subconscious then, is it? It's in your like regular conscience. So I don't like, what are we talking about? What are you doing? Hayden asks what she likes to eat. Allura says, nothing you cook if I can help it. it. You're probably feeding me some body parts. She's getting real sassy for somebody who like is being kidnapped and kind of wants to leave. I guess it's because she's like, can't decide if she wants to leave or if she wants to die. Hayden says, body parts it is, and she like gets up off the bed. Allora's like, you're vile. Allura also has like no appetite, so she is thinking about like eating and also like maybe eating body parts. It's making it even worse. Hayden says, you're eating. She demands it. She demands, sounding like my bloody parents. Nothing changes, does it? Even dead, I cannot get away from this insistent coddling. You know what, girl? I actually agree. I think that that's ridiculous. I think that sucks. You know what, actually, I want to be with Hayden because I want someone to coddle me. Somebody coddle me, make all the decisions for me, do all the work for me. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being an adult. Chapter 13, Puppet, we're still with Allura. So the room is starting to be kind of chilly. She thinks it's around November, but Allura is really not sure because she hasn't been out at any point. Hayden comes into the room and is like, you're shaking like a dog because you're so cold. And Allura says that she is fine, but Hayden says it's only gonna get colder. I think we can probably see where this is going, but I'll let you guess, I suppose. Allura's like, how about you worry about yourself and don't worry about me, thanks. And Hayden is like, I am thinking about myself, you're in my bed. And Allura's like, well, you put me here. Hayden says, you need warmth or you're going to freeze to death this winter. Allura says, give me another blanket then. And Hayden says, that won't do anything. I have no heating, which seems like a serious problem. I don't know how you have like electricity but no heating. I guess maybe if you have like gas, like a lot of people do up here, and you just don't buy new gas, I guess. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if there are extra ways to not have heat when you have electricity. I don't know. So Allura figures out that she's trying to suggest that they sleep together, and she's like, absolutely not. I'd rather sleep with the dog. Hayden says, you don't really have a choice. This is my bedroom, and the sofa just isn't cutting it tonight. Sorry, your highness. Allura says, I would rather shoot myself in the foot than sleep in the same bed as you. She thinks that sharing a bed is like too intimate. Like, what is this, a date? Hayden says that would make my life easier. You wouldn't be able to run then as easily. She then says, I can just take that blanket into the living room with me without you. So Allura is like, I will freeze to death. You can't do that. And Hayden's like, well, that's what you want, isn't it? And then Hayden tries to like take the freaking blanket, and they're like arguing over it like two dogs with like a rope toy. Allura says, if you don't knock it off, I'm gonna make sure you don't sleep even like 1 minute. And that doesn't work because Hayden is like, I don't sleep anyway, because she clearly has insomnia due to the intense trauma. But Allura also thinks to herself that sleep is for the weak. I sleep to escape, but she seems to thrive in her sickness. I just think that that is crazy. Sleep is not for the weak. Everyone needs to sleep. What the fuck are you talking about? So Allura is like, if you don't sleep, then why do you want to be in this bed? And Hayden is like, believe it or not, the bed holds more heat than the freaking sofa, and I would like to be comfortable. She's just getting underneath the blanket, and Allura is like, get out. Hayden is like, what are you so afraid of? Do you think I'm gonna hurt you? There is a knot tightening between my words, torn between my imagination and the reality of the situation. I want to cling to the fact that I'm a victim, and I am a victim, but the truth is her actions have not met her words. They kind of have, because again, she killed your parents. So like, maybe she's not killing you right now, but like, she's not treating you amazing either. Whatever. I know she's doing what she's got to do in her brain to survive, but it still sucks. Allura says, can you blame me? And she's like, I know she's not gonna actually hurt me, really hurt me. I'm like, she hit you in the leg with a bat filled with nails. I don't agree. Hayden promises she will not touch her. She tells Allura, who has gotten out of the bed, to get back into the bed because you'll get hypothermia. Allura is a little bit captivated by her gaze because she's a little bit fruity, you know? I get it. You know what? And Allura's like, and whose fault would that be? We sound like an old married couple, and the only thing keeping my heart beating and my blood pumping right now is the discombobulated rage inside me. Allura gets mad because she's like, you're letting all the heat out, and Hayden is like, well then get in the damn bed. If you lay a hand on me, I will rip your skin off, I snarl, clutching at my body like a fragile ornament. I've never shared a bed with anyone, not even friends, and I can't exactly say I thought my first bed share would be with a literal murdering psychopath. I shudder at the thought, internally raging at my inner turmoil at the fact I am even considering this. Hayden is like, don't doubt that, princess. I won't be touching you. These nicknames are really starting to rub me the wrong way, and not because I don't like them, because I do. Girl, you are just, you know, she is the luckiest bitch alive though, because she got kidnapped by a butch. Do you know how rare that probably is? Girl, I get it. I I'm only a woman, okay? Sort of. Gender is weird. Allura says, I'm serious. Hayden's like, I'm quaking in my boots. Allura's like, are you just gonna lay there and watch me like a creep? Hayden says, that depends. You're not exactly the most pleasing thing to look at. And you dribble in your sleep, which I'm assuming is like drool. I'm assuming. Allura says, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear you say that. When she gets in the bed, Hayden then tells her to take off her top. And she's like, excuse me. And Hayden is like, you heard me, which this is especially creepy since we've had Hayden's POV and we know that she is in fact kind of a fucking creep. And Allura is like, I am not taking off my top. I'm not doing that. And Hayden is like, do you want to stay warm? You have a bra on, just take it off so we can have like skin to skin body heat or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even think that's necessary, but whatever. And so she tells Hayden to turn around. Hayden does. She unbuttons her shirt and then she like gets into the bed and she's like uncomfortable because Hayden also took some of her clothes off and she's like, oh God. And I'm kind of like, girl, I don't know what you thought this was. And then Hayden is like, get closer, and Allura's like, isn't sharing a bed enough? There was only one bed. Like, Allura thinks to herself that she's like a splinter piercing her way through my decaying heart. Okay, I can't relate to that, but I've seen some of the art for this and I guess like she is fine. So maybe you just have to be there. I don't know. Hayden asks how her feet is holding up and I'm assuming she means about the whole I'd rather shoot myself in the foot thing. That's just so stupid. It doesn't really work. Skin on skin isn't at all what I expected. It's sticky, unsanitary. It's so foreign to me, so not in my jurisdiction, and I feel like I'm committing my own felony. I don't know if this is a one-off or she plans to do this until the temperature picks up again, but I'm going to keep my eyes closed and pretend she's not here. She's merely acting as a hot water bottle. This was her idea, not mine. I'm just using the facility she's willingly supplying. Girl, it's okay. You were kidnapped. You don't have to justify it to us. You do have to kind of justify your weird horny thoughts that start coming up real soon, but you don't have to justify the body heat thing. We're not judging you. We're judging her. Whatever, girl. Chapter 14, we are back with Hayden, our puppeteer. Hayden thinks to herself, like, oh my God, all that arguing just for her to like pass out really fast. I know I said I probably wouldn't watch her, but I'm gonna do that. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Do people think that this is hot? I don't know. Like, I think it's like sweet, like the idea of me looking at my wife while she's asleep because we have very different sleep schedules. I give her a little smooch. We do a little cuddle, but like staring is weird. She's just been watching her and studying her breathing for 3 hours. Super weird behavior. Hayden is having like a harder and harder time convincing herself that she's just being considerate to Allura, which I agree. I think it's long past that point. I could say I'm being considerate, but that doesn't explain the dire urge to touch her tender skin under my fingers, how my eyes are fixated on the plush complexion of her plump lips, how I have to fight a smirk when she makes those sleepy whines against my skin. I'm just fucking horny and I need to get laid. Jesus. For some reason, the thought of it does nothing for me right now. I say that as I wet my lips just looking at her. It's freezing, but my body is red hot, even sat here half naked. Yeah, I think we all know where this is going, huh? This is actually like, it's marketed as a slow burn, and to be fair, they don't have sex for quite a long time. So I will give the author this one thing. Hayden thinks about prison a little bit and thinks about how it wasn't swarming with angels. Like, whatever, okay. Like, you're a winner. You were in prison too, girl. She thinks about how she had like kind of a relationship, but she didn't love this person that she was banging in prison. We learned that okay, I'll just read it to you. It's easier. I don't make love. I take until I'm satisfied. I've never told anyone I love them and I don't plan on it. The last person I uttered those filthy words to was my mother, and look where that got her, dead. Like, okay, damn, calm down. Also, like, I don't agree with the whole like I take what I want and I do like, that's not canon because she's a stone top or a touch me not. So she's just giving the entire time. So I don't understand what this weird train of thought is. Like, you're never receiving. I mean, you're getting pleasure from it because you're a touch me not or a stone top or whatever. But like, you're not in the traditional sense like taking anything, you're giving. So it's very whatever. We're not gonna, there's so much of this book. She's thinking about Allura and how she cares too much for her own good. She has too much empathy. I would agree with that. I do worry about her a little bit. She has got nothing on my friend Hellavir though. I am dying to talk about these two books. Actually, I'm making a TikTok. That's why they're here. But like, I read the second one on my birthday and I sobbed from 2 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. And I had been crying a little bit before that too. This book slaughtered me. Just so you know, if you want a good rec, if you like fantasy, you should read those. I don't want her close, but keep finding myself molding myself to benefit her needs, not my own sick and depraved needs. And I'm like, it's kind of like you discovered caring about someone for the first time. I'm sorry, it's like ridiculous. She's worried that Allura doesn't hate her enough, that she should have fought louder, harder, that she should hate her more. I'm just like, I don't really feel like you should be the one dictating how your victim feels about you. You know what I mean? Like, you did this horrible thing to her and she should feel however she's gonna feel without you imposing weird demands on her, but whatever. Hayden also thinks that like Allura has been denied affection and that is why she's like so desperate for it, like especially when she's asleep and like shit like that. But I'm like, yes, but like it's rude of you to say that. Like Hayden decides to smoke a cigarette while someone's sleeping. Rude, you're giving her secondhand smoke cancer, all right? But for the first time in a long time, Hayden's mind feels quiet, which only happens when she's killing people. It's silent. My mind is quiet. A little too quiet. The only thing taking up residence in my mind right now is her, when I should be concentrating on more important shit, like my next target. I need to sort it out. Okay, damn. So she gets out of bed, but Allura looks ethereal. She literally says the word ethereal. All right. She has Shep go outside quickly and then she like leads him into the bedroom so he can cuddle with Allura while she's gone. A little bit cute. I don't know. So she gets in the garage and here's where we have some like truly stupid ass shit that we will talk about. So she is a serial killer. I think it was a little unclear. I think like a lot of people could have thought till this point that she was being called a serial killer because she killed the two parents and her own dad. No, she's killed a lot of other people. So she kills abusive men. Does she get money for this? I don't know. How is she getting these kinds of assignments? I don't really know. Like, I think that she's like doing it herself, but like, how is she getting money? She has to be on like welfare or something, but that's not enough money to live. So like, I don't know how you're getting enough gas for your truck, which guzzles gas like a crazy, insane person. You also live in the Midwest where a lot of things are quite far apart and like, it doesn't make any sense, but we also have to get to the other shit that doesn't make any sense. She uses her mom's old computer for this research stuff. I would like to remind you again that she probably went to prison around the year 1999. So whatever kind of fucking computer this is, not a good one. I do bad things, but only to eradicate worse. I do bad things to tame the trauma inside me. I do what I do because I realized it was what I needed to do to feel something. It's what kept me alive. I'm so sorry, I can't take it seriously. Oh my god. But I am not him. Children and women beaters hide amongst a society that covers them up because they raise money for charity and sit on wads of cash. Someone's gotta fucking do it. My consequences are just my countdown with a broken clock. I don't know when that will be, but when it happens, a bullet will find a home inside my chest where it belongs. It's such an edgelord. What are you talking about? I mean, I agree somebody has to do something about this incredibly corrupt justice system. And I guess if sexy Butch Hayden is the one who has to do it, get her a sniper, you know? Like, I don't know. We're literally losing it, you know? She then leaves the garage at some point, which she uses for research. Again, if she's researching, I don't know how the fuck, because she is supposed to be kind of like a computery genius to a certain extent. I don't understand how the fuck she didn't know that Allura's dad had a kid, because really difficult to hide that. Like, I don't really, whatever. And why would he be hiding it before Hayden was even a problem is my big thing. Like, why would he be hiding Allura from 0 to like 8 or 9? There's no reason for him to be doing that. That's stupid as shit. Anyway, she scrubs off her face paint in the kitchen sink and then she smears dry blood on her face. We're gonna talk about it. I take myself to the bathroom, wash the crusty murky paint off my dry skin before smearing another picture back on. Some might say it's unsanitary to use someone else's blood like makeup, but it's my trophy, a reward I wear with pride. It feeds the sadistic freak in me that was drummed into my flesh and carved into my cheek, running the crimson over the ravine, traveling the corner of my mouth. What? Okay, so like, I don't believe this, and I'm gonna tell you why for a fucking second. So Hayden killed her dad almost 10 years ago, right? Okay, right, we're on the same page. So she would have been about 19 when that happened, right? She was born almost 20 years before, so almost 20 years before 99 to 79, right? What did she, big event did she live through as a big old lesbian? The AIDS epidemic. She lived through the AIDS epidemic. So I really find it difficult to believe that she's just smearing fucking blood on her face to be an edgelord. Blood carries diseases. Blood carries diseases. And I just don't believe that most queer people who know anything about anything would do that. Like, I know there are probably some queer freaks who are into blood play. I'm not saying there aren't, but like, usually Actually, you probably know who the other person's blood is, right? Like, you got tested or something? Please tell me you guys are getting tested. I'm so scared. Like, she hears her dad's voice being like, give us a smile, baby girl, show daddy how happy this makes you. And like, it's like really kind of corny, but at the same time I do feel bad that she has so many flashbacks because I used to have like a lot and I have much less now because of medical marijuana. So the only time it seems to shut the fuck up is when I take another waste of oxygen. It's my hit of oxytocin, my own personal remedy. No prescription can quiet the darkness that lives inside me. Only death. Death is my sedative to the war inside my head, others or my own. This is something she will never understand and I don't know why, but subconsciously I hope she does. Well, it's not subconscious then, is it? Because you're telling me about it. We need, I think, to have a class about what certain words mean, and if you're not sure, you should just look it up, you know? Like, I look up words all the time. Like, I've told you guys, there's some words that I'm like, I don't know if that's right, and I either ask my wife or I Google it. Like, I don't just like, whatever. I'm tired of this. Chapter 15, Puppet. We're back with Allura. She wakes up, she's not cuffed, and she's alone. I mean, she's not alone, she's with Shep, and Shep immediately tries to like lick her. He is not like a real bodyguard kind of dog, you know, the ones that like launch themselves. He's not that. Hey boy, where's your crazy two-legged friend? I whisper as an uninvited feeling makes itself known, a feeling of disappointment, and I scowl, shaking my head in shame once that feeling reaches the surface, as if I wanted her to still be there. Now who's acting like this is a date? Girl, get it together! Get together! She kidnapped you! What are we doing? Anywho, she borrows one of Hayden's giant shirts, so that does feel suspiciously like dating to me, but okay. She goes out to see if Hayden's still here and she can't see her. And she's like, did she not learn her lesson the last time? Because I like fucked up her house, remember? Then she realizes that Hayden is in fact still here. So Allura just comes on out and looks at like whatever the hell's going on here. My jaw drops at how carefree she's waltzing around her kitchen. A kitchen I've yet to study, but it looks like something from the 80s. Those god-awful black plywood cabinets and granny curtains close off the view from the window to what I'm assuming is the back garden or what's left of it. A fridge no bigger than me sits by the back door with a heavy-duty padlock most likely meant for me. The absence of personality gives it an entirely new one made up of questions and curiosity. Nothing about this place screams family friendly. It's been abandoned and neglected, mistreated and abused. The front window is all boarded up. Why? Why are they all boarded up like this? Allura learns about poor people more at 11. Like, I'm just like, this is so clearly the house that belonged to her parents before she went to prison, which probably wasn't even in the best shape. And she left it for 10 years almost, like 6+ years. And now it's dilapidated. Like, I'm not really surprised, and I don't think you should be either. Like, she looks at the living room, which has like a sofa, TV, that kind of stuff. She's like, aren't you meant to do whatever you're doing? Like, she's insinuating, why aren't you off killing people? And Hayden's like, I have the day off. And Allura's like, you work? And Hayden's like, if you want to call it that. And she's like chopping something with a knife on the cutting board. So like Allura's like, oh, like, of course, I mumble, huffing in annoyance, rolling my head back as I smile in pure disbelief that I even imagined for a mere moment she could possibly obtain a job without the dire need to kill the manager if she was given a task she didn't want to do. I will agree, Hayden is like that. I don't think she could work a regular job. And Hayden is like, you sound surprised, puppet. And she's like, so on your day off, you decide to what? Just make pancakes and kick your feet up as a reward? And she's like, yep. She pauses, slowly rotating her neck to look at me, licking the residue of food she's making off her thumb, and my tummy knots with a feeling I can't explain as I glare at her tongue, decorated with piercings and split right down the middle, making my skin crawl at the thought. Ouch. How did I not notice that sooner? You were a little busy. Yeah, the split tongue, I don't know how to feel about it. Because I know that it's like not medically safe for a lot of reasons, but also you're telling me both sides are pierced and like a piercer did that. That piercer needs to go to jail. Like, I'm so concerned. And she's like, what's wrong with you? Seriously. Hayden says throw another one and I'll lock you back in there, but I don't see her throwing literally anything in any of the paragraphs nearby. So I don't understand what the fuck she's talking about. I don't know what we're talking about, but okay. She's like, am I meant to say thank you? And Hayden just kind of ignores this and is like, eat, your insulin is on the table. It sounds crazy, but for just a second I hear my mom and my heart warms with a thud. Imagine home, sitting at the island in the middle of the room, reading the next chapter of my book before college, completely immersed, forgetting to eat the food in front of me. She'd have to remind me multiple times and I'd shove toast in my mouth as I ran out the door. That memory slowly fades as I realize realize that it is only a memory now, something I will never get back and will only be able to picture like an old tape which sends my blood boiling with anger. I don't know what stage of grief I am in right now, but the feeling never gets easier. I feel really bad for her, but I will also say we clearly have some mommy issues. I don't know why we end up being into somebody who reminds you of your mother. Like, my wife reminds me the least amount of my mother ever. Thank fuck for that. Like, no, that's fucking weird. People are so weird. Like, Freud would love this book. She's like, why did you uncuff me? And Hayden is like, syrup? Why did you uncuff me? I don't want the damn syrup. I don't even want to eat right now. I just want to get out of here and go back to normality, which I know will never happen. Even if I did escape, there's nothing left for me. I am a pile of forgotten bones. I wonder if anyone is even looking for me right now. Because I can supervise you, I could quite happily put you back if you like. Supervise me? What am I, 5? Although I do need to stretch my legs, so on further thought I decline. No. I begin to chew the sleeves, standing here drooping in her t-shirt like a one-night stand in a rom-com movie, and I'm cringing at the sight of me. Girl, also the chewing your sleeves when like you're constantly being compared to children by the alleged love interest is diabolical, my guy. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, Hayden's like, that's what I thought. Also, she's like, you were supposed to be keeping me warm. And she's like, I did. And she's like, you left the bed cold. I'm like, are you guys getting married? What is happening? Would you rather I have stayed? I don't sleep with people, certainly not a hostage young enough to be my sibling. My eyes bulge. I don't believe that for a second. She is the epitome of a fuck girl if I ever saw one. I don't know what exactly she's into, but it doesn't take a genius to see that men aren't on her shopping list. Maybe I'm just blind. Plus she looks twice my age. She can't tell me she's never slept with anyone. There's so much to unpack there. The young enough to be my sibling thing, despicable again because you're gonna sleep with her. I know you are. I know you are because I've read the book. Also, I don't know if fuck girl / fuck boy comes into like the English language for like a while. I don't know. I don't feel like we were saying that in 2009 that much. I don't know. Sound off in the comments. I was on like the emo scene of things, so like I don't know what everyone else was doing. She's like, you've never slept with anyone in your own bed, and Hayden is like, no. Surely you've had people over. My body weight rests on my left leg as I hold the countertop next to my plate, watching her eye up my hand. Oh, wouldn't you like to know, princess? A subtle smirk lifts the corner of her mouth, sucking off the excessive amount of syrup now stuck to her fingers as she locks her eyes on mine. She's making an inappropriate innuendo with an even more inappropriate action, like I'm going to find that hot. I don't, but the sudden surge of heat in my face is telling me something different. Girl, I am so concerned about you. Like, she's not mentally there, I fear. I'm so worried about, like, I get just wanting to be horny. Like, this is the kind of book that I could like thoroughly enjoy. I can't even lie to you. But like, we're being so ridiculous right now. And Alora's like, that's not what I meant. And I was like, I think you meant what you said and said what you meant. You're the first woman to sleep in my bed. Happy now. And she's like, lucky me. I mock my way through this in hopes she doesn't think I care, because I don't care that I'm the first to sleep in her bed, nor do I believe her. Me and a million other girls. Hurt, no doubt. So what's so special about me? Nothing is special about you, Laura. She's just savoring you for later. Then Hayden is like, eat, I won't tell you again. And then the pancakes are actually really good. Yay. She just stares at her while she eats the pancakes, and that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 16, Puppeteer, we're back with Hayden. She tells her that she can keep the shirt, which I guess is nice. I must admit, I never get tired of seeing her drowning in my overly large clothes. I can excuse the lack of water just this once. I forgot how short she is. She looks down at my black tea, scolding in disagreement, but I think secretly she likes it too. She's scoffing my food like a beggar, and I'm internally grinning at how stupidly adorable she looks, trying to pretend she doesn't like it. I make banging pancakes. I'm sure that you do. What the fuck? Anyway, Alora's like, wow, thanks, how kind of you. And the sarcasm makes Hayden so angry, and I don't know why. I don't know. And normally, like, if she wasn't an 18-year-old, I love a little brat taming. This isn't a romance book, so it's okay. That's kind of dubiously fucked up. Not even dubiously, it just is. But like, what the fuck are we talking about? But she hasn't exactly been the easiest to work with. I don't hurt women. All I've ever done is protect them. Well, tried. Maybe that's why my instincts took over when she tried to hurt herself, because of me. I clenched my jaw slightly at the thought. This all goes against everything I fucking believe in, but she gives me no choice. The quicker she works with me, the quicker this will be over and she can go back to whatever life is waiting for her outside my walls. Her humor has started to peep back in, and she's glaring at my empty cup like she wants some. Okay. whatever you say. I mean, you could just tell her, rip the band-aid off and then drop her somewhere, but you are clearly so fucking into her. So that's why this is happening the way it is. Allura is staring at Hayden's coffee cup and she's like, do you want one? And Allura is like, no, thank you. And Hayden just says, the offer is there if you want any more. She takes her insulin. Yay. So what now? You think because we shared our bed that we are friends? Friends are the last thing I want out of this. She's a victim, my hostage, my plaything. It's sweet that she's thinking about friendship, although I know she's being sarcastic. I don't do friends. Yeah, that much is obvious, and you clearly need some help. Like, maybe having a couple friends would really, really help you. I'm just saying. Allura says, great, neither do I. Hayden grabs a beer and offers one to her, and Allura says, I don't drink. And Hayden like thinks to herself, that means she's just never had a drink. And I'm like, beer is disgusting. I don't know. Like, if she really is the femme, like the hyper femme cute princess that I feel like we're trying to say that she is, why would she also want a beer? I know some femmes like beers, but not this one. Not this one. No, beer's disgusting. Get me like a freaking frozen daiquiri or something, you know? She asks what the German Shepherd's name is. She says, Shep. Yes, it's basic as fuck, but I'm a simpleton. Ain't got time for that shit. You could have named him like Shadow, or what's like the most common name for German Shepherds around me? Loki. Loki is like the most common one in New Hampshire. I don't know why. Like, why didn't you just... Whatever. So Hayden is like, so what do you do? Like, this is like one of those times where you're meeting people awkwardly at a party for the first time and you're like, so what do you do for work? Like, what are you on about? And she's just like, what do you mean? And she's like, you must have things you like to do. She's like, if you must know, I like to write. She's like, I don't know what I was expecting her to tell me. She's like, you're a dreamer. Dreamer is capitalized. I don't know why. I wonder what she dreams about. I'd love to pick at her brain. Writing is led by incessant amounts of creativity we cannot contain, so we scribble it out on paper. It's like a superpower. I just feel like that's the author's opinion. I can't even lie to you. And she's like, a what? And she's like, you want something far greater than you can even comprehend, and like you live in a like a realm that's unknown to human eyes or whatever, just to escape reality. Her eyes light up a little, letting her shallow, dirty graves bloom into the ocean at sunset as the light hits them through the kitchen window, and they are all I seem to be dreaming about lately, my realm to get lost in. See, this is like so confusing. I can't even break down this sentence for you. That is one sentence. I'm not, okay. Her eyes light up a little, letting her shallow, dirty graves, what are those? Bloom? How can graves bloom? Into the ocean at sunset. What does that mean? What does that mean? Where's that beating? What are we going for? I can't understand the imagery. She's like, I can't tell if that was a compliment or an insult. And Hayden is watching her like twirling her fingers in her messy hair, and she's just imagining running her hand through Allura's hair and then says, snap out of it, Hayes. I agree, snap out of it. You're 29. She's like, it's beautiful, it's unique, it's different. I'm like, okay, whatever. She's like, I don't know if I'm referring to writing anymore or to her. She's like, are you drunk already? And her expression is like bewildered apparently. Her response only tells me she's never been complimented by anyone but her parents, which makes me want to compliment her all the more. And that just pisses me off. I never compliment anyone. I wasn't even complimenting her. I was referring to her hobby. Sure, whatever you say, girl. She's like, just honest. And she's like, what do you do? I'm like, Allura, you dumb bitch. This has turned into a fairly normal conversation, and it's weirdly unfamiliar to me. I'm so used to gouging out eyes and interrogating my victims for answers, not asking them what they enjoy doing. What the fuck? She's like, do you want the serious answer or the not serious answer? And then she's like, I like to game. Like, I've never done this shit in my life. Is this what they call the talking stage? I don't even know what my favorite color is, let alone my hobbies. I can't exactly tell her I murder domestic abusers for a living, as it will stir questions she's not ready for answers to yet. But what I said seemed to deter her as she's let an adorable snigger slip. I'm just like, this is not dating. This is not a date. What are we talking about? This is your kidnap victim. Whatever. And then Allura's like what? Crash Bandicoot? And I'm like, girl, be so for real right now. And she's like, I'll have you know that's a very good game. Have you played it? She's like, absolutely not. And Hayden's like diabolical. Allura looks at a picture frame and sees someone and is like, is that your mom? And she's like stroking the glass gently. And Hayden feels like her heart rate is increasing, like there's a knife to her throat, like very upsetting. She's like, yes. And her nostrils are like flaring and it's like really insane. And she's like, she's really really pretty. And Hayden is like, was. And I'm like, oh, I walked right into that. She's like, oh, how did she? And she's like very hesitant. I'm like, Allura, girl, you were digging yourself a grave. She's like, someone killed her. And she like crushes the empty beer can. I thought it was a bottle. I'm not going back. We're not going back. She's just like picturing her lying there again. It's very upsetting. I feel bad for her. She has no gravestone and her ashes were spread across Lake Michigan by my grandmother, who unfortunately passed during my time in the cell. His side wanted nothing to do with me after they found out I murdered their son. Not even my own flesh and blood believed I was innocent, even after my statement was aired about his abuse. None of them visited or phoned. He was their golden boy who could do no wrong. Honestly, I found this really relatable because my parents were getting divorced. This might be TMI. I don't really care. I'm airing out my parents' divorce laundry, okay? And my dad was an alcoholic. I've said that before. And he was very like verbally abusive for like a long period of time. Okay, he started drinking when I was like 11 and my parents got divorced when I was almost 16, just so you're aware. And when, you know, they were getting divorced, everyone except for like one aunt on my dad's side immediately took my dad's side, not listening to any of the other information, not listening to anything about him being an alcoholic. And it's because he was their little golden boy. He was the youngest. He could do no wrong. Like everyone was just busy enabling him. And so now, spoiler alert, he has freaking liver cancer. Yeah, no shit. Like, I'm just like, anyway, my point is that shit sticks together. And like, which I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like I heard that in a Weirdo Book Club review, Jesus. But like yeah, I do feel like they protect their own for no fucking good reason. And they will usually protect men over women, and it's really shitty. It's really shitty. It sucks. I feel for her. It's very relatable. Allura says she's sorry. My mouth parts as I hear those words come from her mouth. She's sorry. I killed her mother in cold blood and she's apologizing for my loss. I urge to smack her for being so fucking naive. I don't want her to apologize for shit. I want her to realize it was her father's fault. Allura then asks if it's an accident and Hayden says no, and in her brain she really wishes it had been an accident and that also she didn't have to suffer. And I feel really bad because that is really traumatic. I kind of understand why she's doing what she's doing. It doesn't make it acceptable, but I do kind of get it. And Allura's like, oh. And Hayden's like, if I knew then what I know now, I would have killed that bastard that day. I didn't mean to snap my bra, Jesus. And she's like, and it would mean missing things that I've grown to like. And I'm like, not necessarily, because that she's still alive. Maybe Allura would have done her own little revenge scheme on you. You don't know that. And Allura's like, what things? She has peace in the chaos I've slowly built, and she doesn't realize the war she's waging against my darkness. But it's peace I've slowly come to enjoy the company of, my silence and innocence that is corrupting the monster inside of me. She makes me feel something worse than pain. She makes me feel the child inside me left dormant, the child I abandoned when she needed me most. She is getting under my fucking skin and distracting me from the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? Because you were gonna like end it. Remember? Like you were gonna end it and then you realized they had a kid, and for some reason that completely threw you off the entire thing. Because you could have just like let her go, still set the house on fire and off yourself in there. But I don't know why you decided not to do that other than you think she's hot. I don't know, whatever. Hayden says it doesn't matter and then like shakes off the thought, and she like takes a seat on the sofa, and Allura asks, was she a good mom? And Hayden thinks she wasn't perfect, but she was a good mom and she cared about her when no one else would. She put herself in the way of like Hayden getting harmed. It was like, you know, like no mom is perfect, but her mom's pretty good. And she tells Allura that her mom was good. Allura very gently sets the picture down, and then she looks at a picture that is like next to it. It's on the shelf next to it, and it's Hayden as a little girl, and she's like, is this you? And Hayden's like, what if it was? And Hayden's thinking, I practically removed all the pictures from this house because I couldn't bear to look at most of them, but there are like albums in the loft somewhere of like a whole bunch of pictures that my mom took. She's like, you looked cute, and Hayden mimes a gag at this, and she's like, your definition of cute and mine is pretty different. Allura's like, do you miss the old you? And Hayden just kind of like laughs at her, and she thinks she died along with them and I'm much better for it. Why would I miss years of mental and physical abuse? Why would I miss being a punching bag and an experiment to someone sworn to protect me? Why would I miss the fear and the relentless pain, the sleepless nights? And that's kind of fair, because like when you live in a very abusive household, it is really difficult. And I feel that way now that I'm like an adult, but also like I don't run around killing people. So like, like she's so clearly deeply affected by her trauma, and like we all are in different ways, but like this is so egregious that it's like, girl, I don't think that you're better off for this. I think that this is very worrying. Like in an ideal world, we could go back in time and make sure that traumatic events don't happen, but that's just not reality, you know? And she's like, not even a little. The old me was weak. Like, because you kill people, you think that makes you strong, which is like a good fucking point, honestly. And Hayden stalks over to her like she she always does to use like she uses her physical presence anytime she doesn't want to answer something. Anytime she feels slightly uncomfortable, she's like, I'm gonna put a stop to this by being menacing. And I'm like, I think that that's fucked up of you. And she's like, it's power I can control. Part of me wants to punish her for pushing all the wrong buttons, all the buttons I've kept untouched. I've given her a voice and unleashed a brat. I should be happy. This only makes things more fun for me, but she's too soft for the sins I would commit on her body. She wouldn't survive. Oh my God, calm the fuck down. She's just like, you said you wouldn't touch me. I don't want to touch her to hurt her. I want to touch her to claim her. I'm like, oh, nasty. And then she thinks she's power I cannot control. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up. It's like, do you want to hurt me? Will that give you power? And she's like, don't push, little dreamer. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I can't even imagine. Like, or what, you'll kill me? And I'm like, girl, I'll do far more than kill her. I'll bury myself 6 feet inside her, listen to her beg for her fucking life as she makes our grave. What are we doing? Also, how can you bury yourself 6 feet inside her? She's 5'4". Anyway, and she's like, is this your plan to just push me until I give you what you want? She wants to die so badly. She like thinks or whatever. And I'm like, damn. What I want is for you to let me go. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, I feel like we're just redoing the same shit. And Hayden's like, then why are you still standing here? And she like huffs and she leaves straight for the bedroom. Laura's out. And then fucking Hayden follows her like a weirdo. She just like shuts the door in her face. Chapter 17, we're back with Laura, our puppet. It's like, now innocence, we were finally starting to get somewhere. She just thinks, I hate her. I'm like, fair enough. She's just like, go away. And fucking Hayden is just gripping the door frame still, and her boot is wedged between the door and the frame. She's like, fine, have it your way. She's like, my confusion peaks. A minute ago she blew up at me. Now she is leaving me be. I don't understand. Why won't she fight me? Why won't she just snap and end me quickly like she's meant to? There is anticipation between the walls and I wait for her heavy boots to fade away, but I hear nothing. She hasn't moved an inch. She's like, I know you're standing there. And then she's like, I didn't mean to hurt you, okay? Okay. She's attempting to make amends, but the fury inside me doesn't allow the empathy I hold to cling to the half-arsed sincerity just yet. I grip the sheets tightly, channeling my anger and the urge to scream through my fingers. On second thought, just tie me back to the bed so I don't have to interact with you unless you can be arsed to check up on me. And then like Hayden's like, I don't expect you to understand me. I don't want you to understand. And I know an apology isn't gonna cut it, but like, I'm just gonna say it anyway. It was never meant to be like this. You weren't meant to exist and I wasn't meant to be here much longer, all right? But plans change and there is shit I can't take back. You think I enjoy treating you this way? I don't. But I'm fucking trying here, okay? And this makes Laura feel really guilty, which is just really sad. Like, I just feel so bad for her. And she just like thinks about how if she had been allowed to, she would have stabbed the shit out of Hayden and she would have like killed someone just like Hayden kills people to kind of deal with the unbearable ache in her chest, the unbearable grief that she's feeling. She doesn't deserve my forgiveness, but she did deserve better too. I'm afraid to learn what went wrong in her life for her to become something she loathed. There is art in that. Dark, potent art. Like, art? She killed your parents! They just sit in each other's silence for a few minutes, and then eventually Laura makes her way towards the door and she opens it slowly, and she feels like Hayden is glaring at her like she knew that she was going to like come out eventually, and that makes her frustrated. It's like, you're really shit at apologizing. And then after that she's like, I'm bored. Like, fair enough. She's like, I could put a movie on. Don't think you'd like any of them though. She's like, try me. It's like, me and my mom really liked horror. Well, surprise, surprise, Laura really likes horror too. And she's like, do you got Saw? Right, we're gonna watch Saw in this bitch. She's like, I'm sorry, did you say Saw? Isn't that too gory for you? I feel like that's a weird stereotype about femmes or something. Like, just because we're girly doesn't mean that we don't like horror. I love horror. I feel like horror is very girly pop depending on what you're watching. Not some of the like R revenge ones or the extremely brutal violence against women ones, but some of them are like so girly pop, so cunty. Like, I don't know. She's like, thanks to you, gore is the least of my worries now. And she's like, Saw it is then. And Laura's like, on one condition, ... And she's like, it comes out before she's even really thinking about it. And Hayden's like, do I have a choice? She's like, tell me your name. She's like, Big D. And I'm just like, that's so stupid. She's like, very funny. And she's like, just call me Hayes. It's like, done. And I'm like, okay. Like, they go to the living room and she starts like rummaging around the DVDs to get everything like set up and stuff. And she's like, what did you mean earlier when you said you weren't going to be here much longer? I feel like it's pretty fucking obvious. Hello? Hello? And she's like, do you think you're the only person who wants the easy way out? And then Allura is like, my bangs are driving me nuts. I just caught them. Why are they like, and she's like, do you think you're the only one who's wanted the easy way out? And she's like, well, why haven't you then? And she's like, plans change. Like, you mean me? My thumb threads through my fingers, guilty for being the reason she's still breathing, but for some reason, part of me feels slightly honored. There have been multiple times since my arrival, things could have gone horrifically different, but they haven't, not even with her other plans interrupted by me. And then she says something like that, as indicating that, yeah, Allura is why she's still here. And she's like, do you still want to? And Hayden's like, yeah. I'm trying to understand her, but it's encrypted messages. A small part of me aches for her, and I hate that she is pinching at my empathy like a vulture. I am supposed to be dead. Actually, it says, I am supposed to be dead. It's not correct. It's, oh my god. Also, I don't think, I know a lot about vultures because I think they're cute as fuck and they're very important to the ecosystem and everyone hates them for no fucking reason, even though they literally help break down a lot of the disgusting diseases of the environment that they're in, whatever. I almost hit a turkey vulture while driving and I almost sobbed and he took off. I don't know if you've ever seen a vulture try to take off. It's awful. They have such a hard time because they're a lot, I feel like, chunkier than other birds. And I like apologized to this turkey vulture out the window. I said I was so sorry. Anyway, I don't think they pinch. I don't think that that's a thing that they do. Allura says, I'm sorry that you want to. She's like, say you're sorry again, I'll wash your mouth out, puppet. I'm like, I feel like we have some weird kink going on here that is like, again, the DDLG that I just doesn't do that anything for me. Like, I do kind of understand the appeal of daddy sometimes. I couldn't do it myself, but I can kind of understand, you know, where people are coming from or what have you. This shit I don't really get. Oh, no thanks. No thanks. Allura tries to think about like Hayden saying she shouldn't have existed and what that means, and she can't really figure it out. And she's like, did she not do her research before raiding my house? And I kind of, yeah, I'm like, you didn't even go to like the town records or anything to see like anything about Allura, like, because like I don't know how you didn't know that he had a kid. I don't know. She asked if her dad was a part of this, which is a very good question that she should have been asking way before this. And then Hayden just says, you should get some sleep. This is after the movie, by the way, I'm pretty sure. And she's like, I'm gonna be out soon, not sure when I'm gonna be back. And Allura is like, work, and Hayden is like, work. But Allura like shudders at what that actually means. Chapter 18, we're back with Hayden. The telly roars and I half expect it to wake her up, but she is zonked out next to me. That insulin really does kick her into another dimension. I have a disgusting urge to pick her up and carry her to bed, but that's far too romantic for me. Ew. Like, well, I think you should. I think it'll be hot. Do it for me. Instead, she just brings the big comforter and puts it on her. She's a little bit jealous that Allura looks so peaceful when she sleeps because she never gets a good night's sleep. Yeah, that's kind of fair. I get it. I've had insomnia like my whole life. They watched all 6 of the Saw movies that were out at this point. It's crazy to me that that many were out by 2009. We watched all bloody 6 of them. Who knew a little thing like her enjoyed watching shit like that? Although now it makes sense as to why she referred to body parts. Yeah, also you're a serial killer. I feel like that's pretty common to mention body parts around, but whatever. She makes her way outside, making her way through the halls. Fuck these walls, man. I don't want to be here. She goes by this old car that was her mom's that's like nearly as old as her that she just keeps. It's like not running anymore. She thinks about how it's a little bit nippy out tonight and thinks that no hot water bottle for Allura tonight. After today, it feels wrong of me to put her back in that room. I just hope I don't fucking regret it. She already made a playground of my house once, but something shifted in the air today. I don't know what. She looks at her phone. This guy's flight lands at 3 a.m. and she's going to go follow him like through the woods to like back roads or whatever to kill him in the car. She thinks about there were things she said to Allura today that she hasn't said in a long time. I've killed 3 men this month and each time it's been less and less satisfying. It's pissing me off. Hopefully this asshole can relieve me of some emotions. I've been feeling far too much recently when I shouldn't. And what's worse is they are emotions I cannot fucking understand. I'm just like, you're just having like romancy feels. Like, I don't think you need to kill people. Page break. So she's parked in another stolen vehicle. How she keeps getting away with this, I don't know. She was definitely on probation at one point. I don't know how long probation lasts, but like, and she's like rolling a cigarette. I roll another cigarette to pass the time, fiddling with my switchblade between my fingers, suddenly imagining it tracing her soft skin, and I quickly snap myself out of it. Focus, Hayden. Get your mind out of the fucking gutter. Why the fuck am I thinking about her right now? Because you're really gay and you're into her. Whatever. Anyway, the airport's busy. She eventually follows him like through you know, some streets and shit. She's tailing him for about 30 minutes until it's just her and him on the road. It's 3 a.m. so you would think that would have happened sooner, but whatever. She hits the back corner of his car with her car, which causes his car to spin out, and the car rolls down into a ditch head first and it gets upside down. She yanks him out of the seat like a chew toy through the shards of glass, tearing him to pieces. Lovely. And then she says, rise and shine, asshole. He's like, please, what do you want from me? I'll give you anything. Blah, 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 blah. It's the same shit. And she's like, unfortunately I didn't bring a saw with me. The little dreamer had a good idea with that. I'm like, ugh. She's like, I don't like liars. The only thing valuable to me is your demise. And then there's this sentence, which is, this is why I do this, period. To show them that no amount of money can postpone their death, period. No matter how much dollar you have in the bank. Karma is its thief, stealing their security and breaking their walls. Okay, but like, we don't say, first of all, fragments of thoughts, but second of all, like, we don't say you have dollar in the bank. We say you have dollars, or we say you have money. We don't say, like, I feel like money is much more common than saying, like, whatever, what the fuck why am I arguing with this? He's like, who the hell are you? You know, the usual shit. And she's like, you're karma. He's like, I have a wife and kids, please. And she's like, exactly. I'm like, oh, all right. He's like, please don't do this. It's my little girl's birthday tomorrow. Why do these fucks always bring up their kids on death's door like they give a flying damn? If they did, then I wouldn't be removing their stain. Beating your child until they are begging you to finish isn't exactly love, is it? Love is capitalized again, by the way. My blood runs hot at the thought. The thousands of children suffering in silence without a voice. How these cases get forgotten about to protect the voice of power. It repulses me. See, I do kind of agree with some of that stuff. Also, though, it really feels to me like Villanelle from Killing Eve, very much. They're like, I have a wife and family. And she's like, I don't want your wife and family. That's what it feels like to me. And she's like, I'm sure your daughter will be a lot better off for you being dead. And he's like, what are you talking about, you freak? And I'm like, I don't feel like insulting people is gonna get you what you want. And she's like, even staring death in the face, you are showing your true colors. And then she's like, flicks her switchblade open, says, give me a smile. He then spits in her face and says, go to hell. And then she laughs because she's like, hell is where I belong. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up. Shut up. She's like, I work for the devil. I'm like, shut up. You're so edgy. Stop it. And she's like, oh, we're in hell together. And when you reach the other side, tell the big boy that Haley Moore sent you. And she's not sure if she's referring to the devil or her dead dad or whatever. He's like, you won't get away with this, you sick fuck. And it's like always the same crap. She's like, you and others love to tell yourselves that. She's like, do you think this is my first, second, or third person? And she's like, this isn't even for me, it's for your little girl. And as long as she's breathing, I will continue to get away with it. I'm like, oh. She's like, give me a smile again. And he's like, please, please, fuck, you know. And then she gives him like a smile, I think, and then there's like a gaping hole in his mouth. She kind of has one too, I think. It's like healed over, but still. And then she breaks his fingers because he attempts to punch her. He's like slowly not fighting anymore. She ties a noose to keep him glued to the chassis of the car, chassis. And then she like throws gasoline on him and the car. And then she gets to the end of the trail of gasoline and she lights her cigarette. And then she takes a few puffs and then throws it and lights him on fire and says that it feels like fucking Christmas. And then she kisses the back of her hand, throws it out to the air to send her respects to his family. His pleads echo until like he slowly dies, obviously, yeah. And then she tries to make it look like a collision so that she can get away with it. But again, fire does not destroy all evidence, so this isn't gonna work, but what do I know? Chapter 19. We're back with Laura. She wakes up in the living room and the duvet is on there and she's like, she literally just left me here. She isn't in the kitchen making pancakes. Am I alone? And Shep is here obviously, but still. Laura is still kind of shocked that she left her just alone with like access to everything. She checks to make sure that she's not in like one of the bedrooms actually, and she's not. So she's like, oh, maybe I am alone. And she's like, this is my chance. Right? She makes herself a cup of coffee, even though that cup of coffee was clearly set out for Hayden to make later, so I'm sure that's gonna go great. Can't remember, but I remember it not being great. She's really angry because Hayden refused to talk to her about her father and if he's involved, and she really wants more answers. I do feel that Hayden is drawing this out for no reason. She glares at like the mysterious door, which I'm pretty sure is to like the garage, because she wants to get in there today. That's her goal. She's like, I don't know how to pick locks, but I'm about to learn. And I'm like, good for you, girl. She goes through like like the drawers in the kitchen to find crap that she can use, and so she grabs a bunch of stuff. She grabs a pathetic piece of wire that she finds, and then she does get the door open and she goes into the garage, which is just filled with like tools and a motorcycle. It's like an old Harley Davidson. It comes back up, and then there are 2 more rooms on like the back wall, and she's like, more rooms, I didn't know about this. And she tries to get in, but one is locked, so she tries the other, and that one does open. And then pinned to the wall in this room is like a sea of paper and pins on the wall all about Alora's dad. There's like CCTV footage, which is not really what we call that here, and also like it would be pretty difficult to get some from a lot of streets. Like a lot of America doesn't have them, so like, and a lot of the timestamps are dating back to 2006, so I really don't think that this would be accurate. Again, I feel like this is a European not understanding that that's not how America is, you know. But there's like hospital appointments, court cases. She's like, what court cases? And she reads and she's seeing like murder, self-defense, involuntary manslaughter, Chicago Police Department, mother Mrs. Lily Moore from 1999, and then revoked. And she's like, I don't know what's happening with that, but like, isn't 1999 the year we moved? And that was the year he told her that he walked away from the force, that it was like all too much. And she wants to like scream, and then she sees a phone, but she tries to dial 911. It is not connected. And she's like, no, please, oh my God. And she's really frustrated. She follows the thing to the plug, and it's just been cut in half, and she yells, fuck, you've got to be kidding me. And she's like, she's smart, she's calculated, and I'm amongst now like the bigger picture with some pieces missing. And like all of this just makes her want to run faster. She presses the power button on the computer, but nothing happens. She's been trying for like 15 minutes now. She's scrambling through the file stacks on the like that are next to the computer, and all of these cold cases are about domestic abuse. And she thinks, well, my father was never abusive, so like I don't know what that is about. So maybe she like got it all wrong. She just doesn't know. She is trying to still figure it out, and then she goes shit because she can hear that she's home. And so she hears the truck because it's old and it's loud, and so she's like, I have 2 minutes to get myself into the living room. And so she is like running through the door. She is making sure that it's like locked. She hears the door click. She like nearly trips over the bike on her way in there. She's not having a good time. She hears her keys. She is like freaking out. She's reaching for the TV remote. She slams the power button, and she's like trying to like not get caught. Hayden is back, and she brought her some food from like a fast food place because she's like, I thought you might be hungry. She's like, did you like bring me home food? And she's like, thanks. And it's Wendy's. It's so weird to have the name drop, but okay. And Alora thinks I've literally never eaten fast food because my mom always said it was bad for me, but I really don't care. I'm starving. And Hayden's like, I see you helped yourself to my coffee. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then she's like, what did I say, puppet? Alluding to the whole like, say sorry again, I'll wash your mouth out. I feel a pulse where I really shouldn't, and it repulses me, pushing it to the back of my mind as I look at her grubby wear, quickly changing the subject. And then she's like, you look like hell. And I'm like, okay, you shouldn't feel horny from that, but whatever. And she's like, I thought I looked cute. And she's like, keyword looked, past tense. So I'm like, okay. She's like, and now? And she's like, hideous. And I'm like, okay, shut up. And she's like, how was work? And she's like, tiresome, and you drank my coffee. Like, she's still on about it, even though she's like, I don't say sorry. I'm like, so are you upset or not? She's like, and she's like, say it again, innocence. Say it again, so help me God. But innocence is like capitalized. It's so stupid. She's like, you won't hurt me. You said it yourself. She's like, I said I wouldn't hurt you. No one said anything about making you question your morals, princess. And I'm like, oh, like, that's so weird. I don't get, whatever, gross. She's like, I'm going to take a shower. Question my morals? What does that even mean? I'm like, she's too virginal and doesn't know anything to be like doing this right now, okay? She finishes off her junk food, and she was like surfing through the channels. No, I guess Hayden's the one going to take a shower. Gotcha. She's searching through the channels, and she's like, she didn't even shut the bathroom door. What a weirdo. I'm like, does she not care about privacy? I'm like, obviously she doesn't really care. And she can kind of see a little bit of her back in the reflection in the mirror from there, and she's like, oh my God, Aloe, stop looking, you perv. And she's like, I can't. I'm waiting for her to turn around. I'm like, girl, I mean, I guess if anybody deserves to, it's you. But like, she's a woman. Why am I even looking at her? Isn't this forbidden or something? Wait, oh my God. My morals. Does she mean no? Surely not. Ew, absolutely not. And I'm just like, this is 2009. I fear you should know more about gay people a little bit. Like, I knew more than this about gay people in 2009. I say when I was a deeply closeted gay person. Hey, I was out as bisexual. The bisexual part was a lie, but like I wasn't willing to admit it yet. It's what it is. Allura thinks some more about the office and that kind of stuff and is like, I don't really understand like why. Hayden yells from the bathroom, did you take your insulin? She bellows from the mist and I suddenly feel all warm inside. She doesn't have to care, but she does, and both are equally as terrifying. She's going about her daily life as if I was now part of the furniture, no longer a prisoner, and I should be grateful, but I can't shake the stains she's washing off, the remnants of somebody else beneath her fingernails. Yeah, I mean, she murders people. I don't know why you would try to get used to this. Whatever. I know that she doesn't have a choice. I'm not blaming Allura. I promise. I'm not blaming Allura. I'm just still like, you don't even fight with yourself about it in your own head. Whatever you say. So Hayden says dreamer and she's like, don't ignore me, and then she like strolls out of the bathroom and then she's like, this is the first time I've seen her arms out, like out and about, and there's like tattoos on every inch of the skin, and she's like, I knew she had tattoos, but there's like more ink than flesh at this point. I'm like, the ink is in the flesh, guys. The ink is in it. It's not whatever. She's also like, why is she wearing her pockets out? It's really dumb. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go over why. It's very stupid. It's like, it's annoying, isn't it, to be ignored? And I'm like, okay. And she's like, now she can know how it feels when she avoids all my important questions. And Hayden's like, enjoy the show, because she knows she was like staring at her, and Allura thinks yes. Her remark repulses me with a subconscious arousal licking at the surface. Eager to get a taste as her grin riddles with ego, the bitch kept the door open on purpose. Yeah, obviously. Like, she's like, not really, your channels are awful. And she's like, my cheeks are burning with anger, obviously. And I'm like, girl, you're horny, it's fine. Like, just admit it, it's okay. And Hayden says, I see everything's intact this time. And I'm like, for now. And she smiles a little bit. And yeah, that's the end of that chapter, chapter 20. So the house has stayed intact for about a week now, which is really great news for Hayden. Allura asks if Hayden can take off some of the boarded up window stuff, and she's like really excited about the light to be in, and she like hesitantly complied. She's not super happy about it. Being bossed around by an 18-year-old girl isn't quite what I had in mind, for crying out loud. It's like, okay, I mean, you did this to yourself. I'm also glad she didn't realize I must have left the door open that day either, because I never locked the office door, only the basement door, for reasons I never want to expose her to. I don't think it would break her, I think it would kill her. She would never look at me the same, and we are finally starting to get somewhere-ish. That part of my life does not need to be reminded of, and she certainly doesn't need to be exposed to that level of cruelty. Being cooped up like a bird is more than enough for her snappable little wings. I will clip them, only I get to corrupt her pretty little head. She sees what I want her to see. She has gotten a little more comfortable with the sleeping arrangements. We share my bed, but she builds a pillow fort between us, and it's far too amusing. As if that is going to stop me from touching her delicate skin. I haven't, but fuck, it's tempting. Instead, I imagine how it feels against my fingers as I paint it with my eyes. Okay, we're a little bit obsessive. Also, she's alluding to the torture that she went through as a kid, so we'll get there. We'll get there. She goes into the living room from the garage door. She's kind of smothered in oil and paint because she's been trying to work on a motor for something. And she comes in and Allura is just like staring at her, and she's like, what? It's like, are you building your escape plan? It's like, if you mean a broken pile of machinery, yes. And she's just like, yours? Like, okay. And Hayden thinks about how it was a birthday present from her mom 2 years before she died. It was just like a secondhand piece of junk, the motorcycle, and she really loves it though. Her dad was very upset about this though, and was like, she doesn't even have a license, why would you give her this? Like, get it off of my fucking property. She's like, she barely deserves cake, and you got her a bike, and I hope you didn't pay for that. And Hayden jokes and is like, nah, it belongs to the president. And Allura's like, haha, and she's like, it's just a hobby. It's an awfully dedicated hobby. She's like, I'm just trying to avoid you. And then she thinks I'm not half wrong, I'm avoiding her. But I feel it's not because she wants an answer, it's because I want answers. Answers to the feelings that seem to completely and utterly consume me whenever I'm within 5 feet of her, that are withering away at my hard shell. So we can see that she's starting to have big fifis. Can I ask you something? And she's like, depends on how stupid it is. And she's like, why do you wear your pockets that way? Like, out. She's like, just a habit. And she's like, it looks really silly. And she's like, silly doesn't really count behind bars. Now, I don't know if this is a real inmate thing or not? I couldn't tell you. And she's like, it's a symbol of ownership. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm not following. And then she's like, well, if an inmate held my pocket, they become my bitch. And I'm like, is that a real prison thing? If any of you guys have been to prison, let me know. I don't know if it is. It's like, they submitted to you. And then she's like, clever girl. And I'm just like, it's like, and if they didn't? And she's like, I became their worst nightmare. So you did fight women. You're just lying. And she's like, because they didn't submit to you, you'd hurt them. And she's like, because they chose the wrong side, prison is a playground for the punishable, a free-for-all. If you do not protect yourself, you can kiss your ass goodbye. And then she thinks that she learned that the hard way. Like, being a dyke in prison full of women who could snap you in two wasn't exactly fun, but it's nothing I'd not dealt with before. My father made sure of that. And I'm like, okay, damn, we're thinking some fucked up stuff. All right. She's like, so who was protecting you? And Hayden's like, the demons in my head, innocence, capital I. And I'm like, okay. Like, why are we being so edgy? She's looking at the screen and Allura is like, is this you? And it's the guy she just killed, like, all over the screen. And she's like, do you really want the answer to that? Like, I just want to understand. Do you have a target? That's the fucking problem. No one will ever understand me. I don't even fucking understand myself. Why is she trying to find reasoning for my chaos? It's just pissing me off. And she's just like, this isn't an interrogation. Quit it. And I'm like, you need to, like, calm down. And she's like, how many have you? And she's like, 14. Happy now. It's like, how have they not even come close to catching you? And she's like, they get as close as I let them, which is really hilarious for someone who clearly doesn't understand forensic evidence at all, but okay. It's like, they will find me, you know. She's like, it's sweet that you think so. It's like, you can't keep me locked away in here forever, Hayes. It's like, was that a challenge, puppet? Don't tempt me. I will bury you 6 feet under, still breathing, until you decay with the rest of them. My face is so close to hers, I could almost kiss her, and part of me desperately wants to stick my teeth into her bottom lip till she's bleeding in my fucking mouth. Okay, damn. And Allura is like, I know there are no dead bodies in the fucking garden, Hayes. Like, I'm not stupid. You wouldn't ruin this place that clearly means something to you. She's like, I don't know why you cling on to it so dearly, but clearly it's important to you. And that's why you haven't gotten caught. And that's also why, like, your house has, like, me being in your house has you on edge. She's like, smart girl, does she want a medal?
Clever girl.
I see you haven't lost all your intelligence. She's like, what is it about this place? Why are you still doing the devil's work? You got out, you were free. That's laughable. Really? Is that what she thinks escaping prison is? Freedom? Being branded with convictions that stop you from living a normal life and exiled to live a lonely, miserable fucking existence? That's actually a great point. Just because you get out doesn't mean anything stops. It becomes incredibly difficult to get a job. You lose a lot of opportunities if you've been to prison, like, yeah. And she's like, free, there's no such thing as freedom, puppet. She's like, your life is a constant tie to shackles far greater than you and I. No one is ever free. We're all chained down to a society and a system that doesn't want us. What about that is freeing? Isn't that why you dream? I'm kind of like, she's like, you just moved from one prison cell to another. She's like, I find comfort in solitude. She's like, that isn't it. What is so special about this place? Like, what are you not letting go of? And she's like, thinking she needs to quit before these things get ugly. And she's like, Allura. It's like, you've not even given freedom a chance. She's right, I've not, because I can't. And what, you expect me to live a normal life, find a wife, settle down, have kids, get a job in a fucking office? I can't, Allura, I'm a criminal. I want to rip her hair out and share my grief through her voice as she fucking cries out. You could still have lived that life. There was still redemption for you. And she's like, what would you know about me? I would also like to mention that Hayden couldn't have gotten married to a woman because they're in the Midwest in the year 2009. My state of New Hampshire didn't even legalize gay marriage until, I want to say, 2012, 2011, somewhere in there, 2010 maybe. I was in high school for sure though. And then the entire country didn't until I was a junior in college. So she's like, I know it's because you refuse to tell me anything about you. You're only making it worse. She's like, the world's ugly, I'm ugly, believe it or not, I'm protecting you from the answers you don't want to hear. And I'm like, well, why though? Because, like, the whole point was to tell her and to, like, wreck up the place, whatever. And she's like, why? What am I missing? And she's like, it will kill you if I tell you. She's like, I'm already dead and I will only ever be dead while still being in your possession. And I'm literally like, this is so stupid. This is such edgelord, like, fighting. Like, she's like, you want answers? Fine, but I'm not going easy. So she's like taking off to the garage. Allura says, hey, where the hell are you going? She's like, I need to clear my head before I snap hers off, which is very healthy. She thinks that she needs to get in her car, but she's intoxicated, and that's like a risk. She takes off. She doesn't know where she's walking, but she doesn't plan on coming back until dark. And then maybe she'll feed her anger into someone else. She's just thinking that she infuriates her really badly. And she's like, this is bad. Chapter 21, Puppet. Laura is dealing with Hayden storming out of the room like a little girl. And she thinks that she's angry because she knows I'm right. She didn't lock the garage door, so Alora goes into the garage so that she can look at more stuff. The computer is open though because Hayden left it open on a specific court case document. It's a domestic abuse case that got dropped. So there are hundreds of images in this file. There's pictures of him with a woman that isn't her mom. Maybe it's her biological mother. She doesn't know, but it's not her mom. It's Hayes's mom, and it's with him, her mother, like Hayes's mother, and Hayes are in a picture. And she's like, why is she in this photo with my dad? And there's like endless photos of her looking at these things. She's like, why have I never heard of this woman before? Like maybe she was mentioned, but I was too young to remember. I can't remember at all. And she's like, is she Hayes's mother? And like, what was she doing with my dad? She's like, it still doesn't explain just because they knew each other, like why she killed my dad. And there's a bunch of stuff from like the Chicago Police Department. She's like, that's almost 4 hours from Indiana. And then she sees her full name, all her personal information are in a document from 1998. It says Lily Moore, mother of one, Haley Moore, and wife to Richard Moore, who died in 1997. And then she sees that Haley Moore has gone to prison for 6 years for involuntary manslaughter. She's like, this still doesn't explain to me at all how my dad was involved. I don't understand. She wonders briefly if her father killed Hayes's father, which I guess does kind of feel like the most obvious thing that could be brought together. But she also thinks to herself that Hayes never mentions her dad ever, so it's very unlikely. It was also 2 years before her dad quit the force and like walked away, so it also doesn't make a ton of sense. Hayes comes back and she's like, are you ready to talk? And Hayes is like, are you ready to listen? She's like, I have been ready since the day I got here. She's like, I've demanded you to tell me and you refuse. And she's like, because you're not gonna like it. And she's like, tell me, Haley. I immediately regret speaking that name when her eyes hollow, suddenly seeing innate death in physical form, flaring her nostrils as her split tongue runs her teeth. I'm assuming they mean against her teeth, gripping my throat so tightly my vision goes fuzzy. She does love non-consensual choking. And she's just like, call me that again and you'll wish that I killed you that night. Okay, do you understand? And then she like throws her back into the brittle chair and then she goes slowly towards the door. Alora's like, where are you going? She calls Hayes and she shuts the door behind her and locks her in there. And she says, no, please don't lock me in here, Hayes, please open the door. And she starts freaking the hell out. She's like, you want answers, look harder. When you've calmed down, we'll talk about it. And so this makes Alora freak out harder because when you lock someone in a room, obviously they're gonna be freaking the fuck out. Duh, no shit. Page break. It's been hours. She's just like lost it. She's exhausted herself at this point from freaking out. After a few more minutes of trying to pull herself together, Hayden says, are you finished? But she doesn't even sound angry. She thinks she just sounds fed up with her, you know? And she's like, yes. And she's like, are you ready to listen? And Alora thinks, no, I don't think I am, but I don't have a choice. And she's like, Hayes, please. And she's like, I need you to know that you were never meant to get caught up in this. I said it before and I mean it. Like, you weren't meant to be part of this. She's like, everything you think you know is about to change. Are you prepared for that? And Alora thinks again, no, but like, what choice do I have? And she's like, yes, I'm ready. She explains that she was in prison for 6 years for involuntary manslaughter because she killed someone who was meant to protect her. And she says, I killed him because he was a threat to me and my mom. And Alora guesses correctly that it was Hayes' own father. And she's like, yes. And after things were done, it was great. Her mom got her life back on track. She was no longer in danger. The house was finally at peace. It was great. And then she was a part of the Chicago Police Department and she worked alongside John, which is Alora's dad, for years, even when her own dad was alive. And they were case partners and their dads got very close together. And after he passed away, like the dad got murdered, her mom told everyone that he just ran away from the relationship and that he just walked out and left a note saying he wasn't coming back to protect Hayden, obviously. Alora's dad was by her side for a while and then it slowly turned into something more. And she's like, when was this? Was it before I was born? It couldn't have been because her dad died in 97, so just so you know. And she said, your father was a single man from what we knew. He never said he had a daughter. I'm assuming that was to protect you. And Alora was like, he was seeing your mom. And she's like, yeah, something like that. That's what we wanted to think. But until one night he was like searching through her room and like I instinctively ran to the room because I could hear him. He was snooping for evidence against her mom in the disappearance of the dad. And he was never interested in her that way. He was using her just to get her like behind bars. Police do actually do shit like this, by the way. So Hayden Hayden tried to tell him that it was her and he didn't want to listen, basically. And he was aiming the gun like at the mom's heart, and even after Hayden said she was just trying to protect her, he wouldn't move the gun. And then he told the mom, step aside or I will not hesitate to shoot you. And she refused because she wasn't gonna let him shoot her daughter. And Hayden said that she told her to move and that it's okay, that the punishment for her actions is okay as long as she has her mom to come back to, which is very, very sad. But she refused to let her go. And she said, she's my baby, John, please don't do this. It was an accident and she was keeping us safe. And she was just a kid, John, because she was probably like 17 when this happened. He just glared straight through her like she wasn't even there. And he just like could not let it go, I think because he was friends with him. And so he opened fired on her and killed her mom. He claimed it was self-defense, and Allura says he claimed it was self-defense. And Allura also wonders if like Hayden mustn't like resent her for any of this and whatever. And Hayden says that he walked away without a scratch. He said that she was unstable and went for him first, which is not true, and she saw it all. And she died in her daughter's arms, so that's like really upsetting. And she watched him run. She remembers listening to her mom say that she loved her, and she faced him in court and got thrown behind bars because like her mother was no longer alive to corroborate what she was saying, basically. So it's just like a very corrupt, intentional situation. And Allura asks, was it intentional? And like the death of her own dad, like Hayes' dad. And Hayes says, a sick part of me always wanted to, and I dreamed about it, envisioned it, and I knew if the time came and I had to do it, I would do it, but I didn't seek it out, and his death was purely to keep me and my mother alive and safe. Allura is thinking about how the first kill started something, and in these last 4 years she's taken 14, which I don't think it's 14 because the 14 would include her dad, I'm assuming. And Allura is just trying to take so much of this in right now and process, because this is like very deeply upsetting. And she's thinking the monster behind this door is a monster filled with bullet holes and broken armor, a shattered heart that only knows suffering. Her pain is her architect. She then thinks that this could all be a lie, but she's not really sure why it would be. And it's also been about 2 months of Hayden being very honest with her in her opinion. So she's like, I don't know. And she's like, this changes everything, but it's too late. It's too late now. Chapter 22, we're back with Hayden. She's still clinging to her like distant, very painful memories. She is just listening to Allura crying, and she's like, I told her that this would kill her and she didn't listen. And she needs to know that I wasn't born this way, I was created. And I'm like, I don't know why you care, because the next line is like, I don't want her forgiveness and I never have. So I don't really understand why you're going through all this trouble to prove yourself to this girl, only to be like, I don't care if she hates me, I don't care if she forgives me. Why then? Why are we doing all this? Hayden like puts her head on the door, and she knows that Allura needs comfort right now. And Hayden's like, as much as I hate human contact, she needs this. So she holds her, which is nice of her, I guess. Like she just kind of like sits down, touches her arm a little bit, and they just like hold each other. I scrap the talking, knowing full well that's the last thing she wants to do. Grip her tightly, feeling her melt into my hold. Resenting every second I'm comforting her. I never had anyone to comfort me. Maybe I resent it because I mourn for it. Someone to actually give a shit. That's really deeply upsetting and sad, but she also kind of did like the same thing to Allura. And I feel like we should maybe think about that a little harder. Hayden says that she is sorry. I whisper lightly down her ear, quiet enough that she can't hear my blasphemy. I don't ever apologize. Something foreign to me, and just speaking those words aloud goes against everything I am. I can't apologize when I am smothered in sin. Capital S. Sorry will never make up for the damage I've done. Yeah, I mean, obviously sorry is never gonna cut it, but it might be nice, you know, to hear. It might be nice. So we then have a page break, and Allura has been sleeping for a few hours now, and Hayden thinks that she only ever looks at peace when she's asleep. Even more so when Shep is like cuddled up next to her. And I mean, I think that makes sense because she's a kidnapping victim. Like she's really not wanting to let Allura out of her sight because probably she's worried about it. She thinks to herself that if Allura hadn't pushed her, she probably never would have told her the truth, and she doesn't really know why. Like it could be fear, it could be guilt, it could be both. She now thinks that they're back to square one. My impulses win, and the back of my finger finds her soft cheek, warm beneath my touch as she rolls into my pillow, cracking open her eyes, and I've never felt such relief. She then says, hey little dreamer, and then Allura's like, thought I lost you there. She's like repeating Hayden's words back, it's dumb, I don't know. And Hayden's like, how are you feeling? And she's like, lost. And Hayden's like, if I could take it back, I would. And she's like, you said you killed him that night. She's like, I won't excuse what he did to you. I'm sorry. You had every right to be angry. And then she looks so sad that Hayden's like, innocence, just don't. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about him? And she's like, not right now. And she's like, I'm not the only one hurting right now. I'm not blind. I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to understand. And Hayden thinks this isn't a therapy session, which is very true. And she's like, what more do you want from me, Allura? She's like, I want you to be honest with me. She's like, I have been honest with you. And she's like shooting off the bed. She's getting like pissed. Like she has such a short fuse. And she's like, look, I just want to know how you dealt with this pain, this aching. She's like, I didn't. This is me dealing with it. I kill people and it makes me feel good. Is that what you wanted to hear? It's like, you don't just kill anyone. I read those files, Hayes. There's a method to your madness. She's like, I kill people who cheated death. She's like, people like your father. And she thinks about how much of a monster her dad is. I'm like, your father is such a not enough of a term for a monster like him. And I'm like, okay, calm down there. All right. She's like, do you want a gold medal? And she's like, if things had turned out differently, maybe we would have met in different circumstances. Hayden's like, maybe, ew, maybe we would have been like introduced as half sisters. Gross. And I'm like, nasty, get out of here. Also, it would have been step, not half, but okay. I can't forgive you and I certainly can't change the past. You and your mom both deserve better, but so did I. And I understand now that that was not your fault. Hayden then says, I will never ask for your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth. I do think the not asking for forgiveness thing is kind of nice. It doesn't put like the onus of things on the other person, the victim. Then why did you wait for so long? And Hayden says, because I was afraid, but she thinks to herself, because I was afraid that I would lose her. My, did the monster finally admit she does have a heart after all? She's like smiling. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. And Hayden's like, don't be too optimistic. And I'm just like, this is so edgy. This is edgelord nonsense. And then she's like going to stand and leave. And Allura says, please stay. And Hayden was like, oh, I thought she needed space, but I guess I was wrong. I'm not really the best company, but she's holding my wrist. And okay. And she just kind of like falls for it. And she crawls in next to her. And then she just like lays and observes her. She has like 3 perfectly aligned moles on her right shoulder and a white scar grazing her elbow. We're like really noticing a lot of shit right now. And she like gently closes the gap, but their frames are still not touching, but just like enough of an inkling so that she knows that she's here for her. Chapter 23, Puppet. We're back with Allura. Allura is like, I want to run. That's what I slept on. That's the idea I have. I want to run. I want to get out of here. She turns to see Hayden is actually sleeping and she's like, that's a fucking first. She really can't handle that her dad killed someone and that he hid that from everybody and that she feels like her entire life has been a lie. She doesn't really know what she's gonna do, but she's like, I'm gonna figure it out later. She then gets up. She's like, where would she where would she hide the keys? She thinks she's gotten too comfortable. She pickpockets her jacket that's hanging off the back of the dining room chair and pulls the keys out very delicately. There's like 10 keys on the ring though, and she's like, for fuck's sake. She also grabs the gun from her pocket. She doesn't know that this gun isn't fucking loaded, so like keep that in mind. She keeps turning keys. She's like, I'm running out of time and patience, shaking as I handle them, checking over my shoulder like a paranoid schizophrenic. Leave schizophrenia out of this. This girl is mad at you. Sorry. But seriously, leave schizophrenics alone. Hayden gets up though before she can like get out and she's like, ouch, Puppet. She's just like, when I thought you and I were getting somewhere. And Allura obviously like kind of stiffens and she's like freaked out and she's like, and after I confided in you, and her thumb caresses Allura's cheek and wiping away her tear or whatever. And she's just like, let me go, Hayes, please. And she's like, now why would I do that? Allura says, I will shoot you. Get it, girl, do it. She's like, let me out. And she's like trying to threaten her. And she's like, do you know what the quickest point of a human's body for collateral impact is? And she obviously doesn't know that. She's like, based on your face, I'm taking that as a no. And she's like, but I do. And she's like, because that's the last thing I want. I don't want a quick death. And she's like, but if I were you, I'd go for my heart and don't miss. She's like, I want it messy. I want you to watch me bleed out slowly, innocence. I want it to hurt. I'm like, oh, this is so weird. Like, you guys are freaks. It's like, I want to watch the guilt seep seep out of your pretty little eyes as you realize how foolish you are. Can you handle that, puppet? And she's just like, she wants us both to suffer. And I'm like, yeah, obviously. She's like, if you're going to do it properly. She's like, properly to her is inhumane, which only piques me to wonder why she gave my parents such a humane end. Yeah, first of all, I feel like that sentence is wrong. But also, she didn't really give your parents a humane end, did she? She kind of fucking tortured them psychologically before doing it, but okay. She's like, if you really want out, little dreamer, just pull the trigger. All it takes is one big squeeze, ... and you are free. Free to live your life as you wish. In fact, I urge you to do it, Allura, because if you don't, I will find you in every village, town, city, and I will not stop until we are this close again, because you, I'm sensing raw pain in her vocals, and I don't even think I want her to finish that sentence. Period, my, period, oxygen, period. Shut up, what the fuck? I will stop at nothing to rain hell on anyone who thinks they can take you away from me. It's like, what are we talking about? And then she's like testing her. She's like, do it, pull the trigger. She closes the space between them. She's like grazing against Allura's earlobe, and that makes her tummy flutter again. Girl, get a grip. She feels like that power of like potentially choosing between like life and death at the end of the gun. And I'm like, girl, I don't think now is the time to explore this. Allura's impulses win and she squeezes the trigger, but as I established, the gun is empty. And then there's like a song that we're supposed to start listening to, but I don't care. And then Hayden is like, did you really think I'd make it that easy, puppet? She's like, did daddy teach you nothing? And she's like, first rule, always check the mag. And she's just like, you'd be dead right now. He's like, are you going to hurt me? And Hayden is like, have I hurt you? She's like, no. And I'm like, yes, she has. Physically and psychologically. What are we talking about? And she's like, so why should I start now? It's like, because I tried to escape. She's like, do you want me to hurt you? She's like, I get it now. This was all a little game, wasn't it? And I'm like, was it? Because I don't feel like it was. Anyway, Allura's starting to feel some adrenaline, some fear, and she's like, are you gonna punish me? And we're getting into some kinky bullshit now. It's like, do you want me to punish you, sweetheart? Just say the word, baby, and I will give you the most mind-blowing punishment you've ever fucking had. It's like, what does that mean? She's like, how can pain be pleasurable? Is that what she's implying? That's absurd. And she's like, let's find out, innocence. I'm like, oh god, here we go. So the key is still dangling in the hole, and she's just like grabs her arms, pulls her away from the door, turns her to like face it or whatever, and she like opens the door. She's like, you are my puppet and I your puppeteer. Your next move will only be determined by my hands, little dreamer. If you think you can outsmart me. A cold silence surrounds me as her lips run the length of my neck until she reaches behind my ears, sending dead spirits to pass through me. Cut the rope. And then like Allura's just like glaring at the overgrown garden, and she's like, it's freezing, but like I can't back out of this now. I wanted to do this. I want to run. She's letting me run. She's like, what am I running to? What am I running for? I don't really know, but like I still gotta do it. And Hayden is like, I'll give you a head start. And she lets go and she starts tapping her boots on the floor as she backs away. And then they're like, play Oxytocin by Billie Eilish. I'm like, stop putting these songs in here. She's like, I need to run now, and she takes off. She's going. But she thinks to herself, like as she's like running through the woods and all this other shit, she's like, this isn't me escaping. This is me partaking in her little game, and for some reason I'm enjoying it. This is quieting my mind, making me figure out how to survive instead of glossing over my imperfect little life. Imperfect little life? I think you have a lot more going on than that shit. She's literally thinking about how she has nothing left. She's starving for affection, love, someone to hold her. And I'm like, girl, I think we're losing the plot, which is okay. She's a victim. It's fine. She also says later, after she's gone maybe a good quarter of a mile, we're not really sure. She's like, I knew the mag was empty. That is why I fired it. If there is one thing my father did teach me, it was how to load one up. A father in the force had its perks after all. I just wanted to see how she would react. Push her buttons and it worked. She finally snapped. I'm like, are we really saying that that's what you were doing? If you say so. Anyway, she's like lost in thought. She thinks about Hayden's poor mother, and then that fuels like her motivation to run. She's like, I need to run from my feelings. And I'm like, I don't feel like running from your feelings has to be literal. Like you could just dissociate like everybody else. But she hears a twig snapping after she like stopped and admired some of the beauty or whatever. And she's like, oh. And then she yelps. I yelp out a cry into the empty void as she grabs the ends of my hair, bringing me to my knees, cutting open my porcelain skin against the rough bark, peering down her nose at me like her next victim. Her clown makeup is something of nightmare fuel between the trees, dark and desolate, with only us to occupy it. Now, about that punishment, puppet, ... Shit! Girl, what did you think? Chapter 24. This is when stuff starts to get kinky, by the way. So just like keep that in fucking mind if you're watching this, okay? This is like insanely, there's so much smut. Tap out now if you don't like that. I'm gonna go over the highlights mostly because like I don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, the little princess wants to play no objections here. I'll show her what sin tastes like. She's on her knees before me and my god, it's a beautiful sight. She has no idea how deeply I want to break her just for betraying me so carelessly. Okay, damn, we're going crazy. I said I'd give you your freedom, little dreamer, but I never said you would be free of me. I will haunt your nightmares and plague your pure little mind until the only thing you long for is me. Like, stop it. Calm down. She is trembling, but Hayden tells Allura to get up. She walks her to the nearest tree stump, throws her torso over it like a slab of meat. My fucking meat. And I'm just like, can you calm the fuck down? Her nightgown is like getting ruined by some moss. She's like, give me your hands. And then she like places them neatly behind her back, crosses them, and then she undoes her belt buckle. And then she like, I don't think she loops anything. No, it's like looped up in her hand, like teasing my belt through its hoops until it's looped up in the palm of my hand, almost salivating at my little innocence, which are both capitalized, bent over before me. Okay, all right. Want so desperately to trace her soft flesh, but I refrain. She doesn't deserve that level of intimacy. I'm punishing her for trying to escape with words I confided in her, so I'll just beat them back out of her. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, because this isn't really consensual, this is rough. But again, erotic thriller. We're not gonna freak out about it too much. She starts spanking her with the belt. Yeah, and Hayden's thinking things like she doesn't want to feel I can fix that, doing all that, feel that puppet. I'm just like, oh, this doesn't do it for me. She kneels at one point, and I'll just read it to you. I kneel slowly, inching my mouth towards her backside, tickling her rosy ass with my lips as I lick them, letting her take in the spoonful of pleasure my mouth has to give as I line her skin with my snake-like muscle before sinking my teeth into her sore flesh, drawing out a shriek that scares the wildlife nesting in the trees. Not the wildlife. Can you imagine being an owl during that? Like an owl, like right in front of my salad. Just like, don't make me repeat myself. And she's like, yes. And then she's like, that actually felt great for me, Hayden. And I'm really glad I didn't even have to kill her to do it. And I was like, okay, damn. I was like, apparently you just need to get in a cake. She thinks more shit about like she's my plaything. Blah, 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 blah. I have my own rules. She doesn't deserve like the nice things or whatever. She's like, stand up. She also thinks that Allura knows that she did this willingly, which I mean, she sort of did. Also probably because she like reaches one of her pockets and grabs them, which is so stupid. And she's like, what does this mean, puppet? She's like, I'm your bitch. And she's like, I didn't quite catch that. What'd you say? She's like, I'm your bitch. And I'm like, oh my god. And then she's like, good girl. She thinks to herself, this can be a lot for someone who reads books and stays well away from the 100-meter run in college. Look, leave us nerdy book people alone, all right? Her legs are like gonna give way, so she helps hold Allura up, and she's like, easy there, love, capital L. Why are we doing that? The adrenaline is wearing off. She like takes off her jacket and puts it on Allura, which is very nice of her, I suppose. If this was less dubious because of the whole kidnapping, this would be like aftercare and that would be nice, but whatever. She wanted me to snap, yet I'm cradling her in my arms and her gentle huffs against my white shirt are calming me. She's become my oxygen tank. Okay, page break. She has carried her back to the house all like sweetly, like cradling her, and Hayden just feels like something's different. She's different and my walls are collapsing, and I'm like, okay. It's like she encompasses the power I fear, love, and I'm like, okay, calm the hell down with that, all right? She loves things that don't deserve it. She feels so heavily that her body is shutting down. It doesn't know how to cope with feeling at peace. She internally battles against a raging war. She bleeds onto paper and the silence is killing her. She cannot cope without it. Her mind is protecting her heart, and in doing so, she's forgetting how to function. She's learning why I do what I do, why I chase for pain, for death like a reward. But with her, it's not the same. Her pain only rips out the mercy inside of me. I'm merciful with her and her alone, but why? And then they like lay in bed next to each other, and Hayden can't figure out why. And Allura calls out to her like in her sleep a little bit, like she's half asleep. Even half asleep, she's calling out for me, and I'm indecisive whether that is a good or bad thing, but it makes my heart constrict. I can actually feel it beating inside my broken rib cage. I suddenly love my name in her mouth. I want her to say it again. I'm just like, okay. She's just like, I'm right here, little dreamer. And she's like kind of dazed, a little bit confused. And then she's like still in her muddy nightgown. And she's like, don't worry, princess, I still have some human decency. I'm like, do you though? She's like, you're a perv. She throws the pillow gently against her chest. And like, she looks like a puppy apparently. She's like, and you're a very good listener. And then she's like, what's wrong? Because she looks weird. And she's like, my sugar levels, they are just low is all. And so Hayden, without hesitation, is like up. And she's like, I'm going to get that shit. And she has like a cupboard full of sweet treats for ller, which is kind of cute. And she thinks to herself though that if her dad could see this, she calls it him her sperm donor though, he'd be turning in his grave. I also call my dad my sperm donor. That's actually cool. And she's just like, God forbid my mom gave me a chocolate bar. I'm like, damn, your life was really bad. But anyway, ller loves that she's like stuffing some cookies in. She's smiling. And she's like, these remind me of my favorite chocolate. And she's like, oh, do tell. And ller is a basic bitch and she likes Hershey's. And Hershey's is fine, but like, what? You don't like anything more interesting? And Hayes is like, sorry, we're all out of Hershey's. And then she's like, I don't really know why she starts punching Hayden's freaking biceps for some reason, and she's thinking like a fly could hit me harder. And she just grabs llera's wrists and she flips the body weight until like Hayden is laying on top of her and like pinning her firmly to the bed, and she still has like a cookie in one of her hands. It's like ridiculous. And she's like frozen like a deer in headlights, probably because what the fuck. And then Hayden is like, let's get you all cleaned up. And she takes a bite of her cookie and she's like, could you stop stealing my food? She's like, I could, but I won't. Like in her brain, she has no idea what I'm doing to her body, but I do. I'm fraternizing with the enemy and I may as well have some fun with it. And I'm like, why is she your enemy? I don't really get it, but okay. I think it's because being in love is your enemy, I guess. And she's just like, after today, this changes everything. I've given her so many subtle signs that I yearn for her beneath me, and my corruption is slowly seeping into her vulnerable bones. All right then, chapter 25, we're back with ller. She thinks that she pushed but maybe a little bit too far, and that's why we kind of had all that crazy shit. She's like, hey, maybe I learned my lesson, but I don't think I have. And I'm like, oh, that's because you're into this. You're into this. Oh boy. We think some edgelord shit about how like Hayden bathes in so much pain and loneliness and like years of abuse and whatever, and like she wants to understand, she needs to understand. The only reason she inflicted pain is because I begged for it. I'm pathetic. Who begs for pain? Or more importantly, why did I beg for it? This is someone like me and I enjoyed it, which makes this even worse. And I'm just like, does it? I mean, I think it's better that you asked instead of her just doing it, but like, what do I know? It's still very dubious, don't get me wrong, but like, it's better that you asked for it. She's like, would you mind if I take a bath? And she just gets up to go run ller a bath. That's hot, that's sexy. That's fine. Except that if the bathroom still looks like the Saw bathroom, I'm scared to take a bath in that. You're gonna get a yeast infection, girl, like or UTI. How is she gonna get meds for that? She thinks about her dad a little bit and is like, how could he lie to me? I'm like, well, obviously pretty easily. I mean, he's a pig. A cab. Like, she sees Shep nuzzling her and she like says, hey boy, and she's just like petting him. Hayden comes back and says, it's done. And then llera's like, okay, I'm gonna go take a bath. She changed into clothes she doesn't mind getting wet, and like it hurts to be in the bath because of the spanking, but it's soothing. My lip drags through my teeth, frowning a tiny smile at the thought, wanting deep down in the pits of my stomach for her to hurt me again. Okay. I'm like, I get it. I get it. I get it. But then she tries to bring it back to like being hungry for discipline, which makes sense if you lived with like people like mine. And I'm like, huh? What do we mean? Hayden comes to stand in the doorway like a creep. And she's like, even after all of this and after this like level of trust we've got to, she still doesn't let me bathe alone. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's because she's a creep. I just gotta say it. She thinks to herself, it sounds ridiculous, but I don't have the instinct to run anymore. And I'm like, well, she just spanked you. So, I mean, that might have something to do with it. She asks Hayden if she has any family left because she doesn't have any family left at all, because like she has like pretty distant relatives, and Hayden says none that care, which is pretty accurate. And ller thinks to herself she really is alone, like no one ever visited her while she was in prison for 6 years, just like banging her head against a wall. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, in fact, I'm impressed she still has rational thinking. In most cases, a sentence like that drives someone to do horrific things to achieve their end, but she's still very much alive and very much functional. I'm like, functional in what way? In what way, honey? Like, she's like, what was it like prison? She's like, a walk in the park compared to my childhood. And I'm like, damn. She's like, the lock outside the bathroom door, that was never for me, was it? And it's like, no. And she's like, no. And Laura thinks to herself that Hayden's probably like barely been able to live because it's been like one prison to another. And I do agree with that, yeah. And then Hayden is like, enough questions. And she like gives her a towel. And Laura stops pushing for now. And she thinks she really needs to rest and she almost falls. And Hayden says, next time I'm just gonna let you fall. And I'm like, that's so rude. She's like, but in reality, she doesn't need to coddle me. She never had to. She chooses to. And she's like, next time I'll take you with me. Is this the part where you tuck me in and read me a bedtime story? And then she's like, in your dreams, but dreams is capitalized. Why? I don't know. Anyway, she is a little bit worried about her hair because it's been a hot minute. And she's like, do you have a brush? And Hayden leaves and goes into her mom's bedroom and grabs a brush, which is really nice. And then, okay, Hayden brushes her hair for her, and that kind of does it for me. I do like that. I don't know. We wallow in the serenity, embracing this moment, taking ourselves somewhere else for a while. As I close my eyes until my hair's not free, she places the brush down on her chest of draws? I think they mean drawer, not draw. What? Okay. Running her hand through my sea of hair and down my back so gently I can barely feel her hands on me. My body shudders, rolling an electric shock through my bones. What the hell was that? You're just gay. They crawl into bed and they lay on their designated sides. But Laura kind of wants to cuddle because she's feeling some type of way. She really wants her hands on her, and I'm like, oh girl. And she's 18. Almost 19. I just really feel deeply for her because I'm like, I understand that you're kind of having your sexual awakening, but this is like the worst time to have that. Anyway, they're gonna hold each other, and Laura thinks that she feels safe and that this is kind of nice. I think we both needed this closure, this closeness. Tomorrow we can carry on hating one another, but for right now, this is nice. Chapter 26, we're back with Hayden. It's been a few days since that BS, and Hayden has refused to kind of speak about it, but she can't get the image out of her head. Bent over for me like a good little puppet. She's submissive at heart, and part of me loves it. Her walls are cracking, and soon I'll have her exactly where I want her. She's making it extremely difficult to keep my hands off her. It's like she's purposefully been dangling herself in front of me, wearing nothing but her pants and my t-shirts. I think that you're just a pervert. I don't think that wearing clothes is whatever. Okay, whatever. Anyway, she will crack, and I'll show her exactly what she is really craving, me. And I'm like, well, she is, but like, you're also making a lot of assumptions. She comes in from being out and she puts a bag down by Alora's feet or whatever, and Alora turns around and is like, your arms, and she's like, you should see the other guy. She thinks to herself, this one got a little messy, but I took what I needed and I'm one step closer to getting the hell out of here. Hell, I may even take my plaything with me. See, now she's like changing the plan and everything. And Alora's like, will you ever stop? And Hayden's like, I wish I could say yes, but I can't. Like, I don't have it in me. And she's just like, do you want me out of your hair? And Alora doesn't say anything, and she's like, that's what I thought. She tells her to open the bag, and she's like, I'm not hungry. And she's like, just open it. We exchange a heated glance, holding it until she reaches slowly for the bag, frightened of me, which I find highly ironic considering she's been needing for my physical touch every night since our little game. Does she think I haven't clocked onto the way her body responds to my presence? We've gone from a pillow fort to a closed space at night. I just think just because she's kind of into this a little bit, like her body is, doesn't mean that she is, but whatever. And then she brought her like Hershey's. She's like, where did you? And I'm like, from literally anywhere. Literally almost anywhere in America. And she's just like, Merry Christmas. Like, she's like, thank you. And then she's like, do you celebrate? Like, and she's like, the holidays? And she's like, what? And she's like, no. She's like, Christmas? And she's like, God, no. And she's like, yeah, I was never much of a fan either. But my mom, she'd cook these really nice shortbread biscuits and make me help her decorate the tree. She was always awful at it. She's just like kind of looking at the ceiling, and Hayden is feeling kind of guilty about this now. And she's just like, she probably doesn't even know what day it is today. So, and she's like, I'm sure it looked beautiful. And then she like remembers her dad like berating her mom about like the Christmas decor. And her mom is like, it's for our daughter, like, please. And she's just like, take it down. And she's like, please don't make me do this. And he is like, oh, he's awful. Anyway. And then she's like, hey, so you all right? You went somewhere. Where'd you go? You were like in a trance. And she's like, I'm fine. Just enjoy the chocolate. And she's just thinking that she hates this, like hates that Alora's in the middle of this. She's like, all I want to do is show her my anger and make her afraid of me. We can see she clearly wants to push her away because they're starting to have like gay feelings. Anyway, she goes down into the basement and she's like beating the crap out of her punching bag, picturing her dad's face. She also does though look at like the mark on her hand that Alora left on her. I was meant to die. Now I want to run, fly away. What's gotten into me? I just killed to steal an identity when I should be drowning at the bottom of Lake Michigan. And I'm just like, girl. And she thinks that she can't let Laura like lose what little life she has like left inside of herself. Never. And then there's a page break. So just like, what are you doing? And they're going up into the attic, and she kind of like peers down at Allura from the trapdoor. She's like, do you want to bend over for me again, puppet? And she gets like very bright red, Allura does. And she's like, what are you looking for? She's like trying to block the memories, I'm assuming. And she's like, I think I might have something you like, actually. And she's like, what would I possibly like that you have, unless there's like a baby photo album? I want to see that. And she's like, you can keep wishing to see my baby pictures. And then she finds like some old stuff, and she's like, here, and it's like a journal that she can use. I thought you might want to write thoughts, feelings, stories, all that soppy stuff. She needs an outlet, something to vent her emotions into, as I know she isn't exactly going to hand them over to me. Excuse you, if I remember correctly, you said it was beautiful, or was that just a ruse? A ruse, maybe so, but doesn't mean it wasn't true, she thinks to herself. If you would like to know, I meant what I said. She examines the pages, a blank canvas to stain with words. And she's like, how can I trust you won't read what I write? And she's like, the same way I trust you won't write anything mean about me, which is like a joke. And she's like, I can't promise anything. She's like, think of this as like a Christmas present. And she's like, oh. And then she's like, thank you. I will write all of my soppy, cringy writing in here. And she's just like, she's acting normal, and I kind of like it. And I'm like, Hayden, you were so lost. And she's just like, I'll be sure to get you a lock and key, innocence. She's like, I'm sure you have plenty lying around. And I feel like it's supposed to be some kind of snarky whatever, but Hayden thinks she enjoys her bratty little mouth secretly, and it makes it so much more fun to mess with her. Chapter 27, we're still with Hayden. She's pulling out some more beers or whatever. Shep is like looking at her from behind the couch, like waiting for her to come sit with him. The living room is like pitch black. It's at night. The bedroom door opens, and then she like listens, and it's Allura, obviously, and she's like, if you stare any longer, you may bore a hole into my head. She's like, sorry. And she sounds like quiet and timid and defeated. And she's like, couldn't sleep. And she's like, yeah. Hayden is like, isn't it bliss? And truly, love all my sleep problems. Kind of like, how do you do it? And she's like, do what? And she's like, hurt people. She's just like, I just turn it all off. Like, she disconnects herself from emotions, and she's like, don't you feel anything? And she's like thinking, and then she's kind of like, more than you know, but she like barely whispers it. She's like, taking a life isn't what keeps me up, innocence. Constance is. The first cigarette meets its end between my clammy palms. Constance, I'm a constant reminder of everything I swore I'd never be, but now it's too late to change it. I sigh. A murderer, she whispers through uncertainty. She thinks that she hates the term murderer, but it's whatever. And then she corrects her and says, a monster. Insomnia equates to a guilty conscience, you know. It shows that you do feel. Somewhere in that desolate heart of yours, part of me fights back amusement as I grin into the abyss. Or maybe I'm just too broken to find peace with rest, punishment for all I've done and will continue to do until hell decides it's my time. And then they kind of like lapse into silence. I'm just like, I don't think insomnia is a punishment for that stuff. I feel like insomnia comes for a lot of reasons, including trauma. Autism has like a high comorbidity with sleep problems. Like, there's so many reasons, you know? And then she asks Allura what she's thinking about, and she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, what's keeping you awake? And she's like, oh, I'm not sure. I just don't think I could get comfy. And she's just like, her insulin knocks her out. What the fuck is she talking about? She's like, you and I both know that's a lie. What are you lying about, puppet? And she's like, that question like didn't come from nowhere. What are you thinking about? She's like, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how I'm feeling. And she's like, and what might that be? And she's like, if I'm a bad person. My brows knit. Bad person? She doesn't have a bad bone in her body, and I'm starting to wonder if that's the reason I'm so perplexed by her. And why on earth would you think that? And then she says, like, it doesn't matter. Allura's like, when you stopped me from killing you that day, like, you said that Hayden said to be better than it, better than her. And at the time she didn't fully understand. And then she says, why did you fight for me to concur my own downfall when you can't even concur your own? Which I feel like concur is the wrong word choice, but okay. And Hayden goes on to be like, some people are stronger than others. And Allura says, you told me murder is power. And she's like, are you saying you want to destroy yourself? And she's like, haven't my actions answered that? And she's like, why did you give me the journal? And she's like, because you like to write. And she's like, tell me the truth. And I'm like, well, I do think it is because you wanted to write, but okay. She's like, because I could see you slipping. She's like, why would you help me? And she's like, I wouldn't call it that. Oh yes, you were being considerate. I got it. Definitely hasn't got anything to do with you actually caring a little. If I wasn't so drowsy right now, I'd have her over my knee for her sarcastic mouth. But instead I grin at the life inside of her. You can't just like put people over your knee whenever you're unhappy with them. What the actual fuck? She says her heart is too big for her chest, little dreamer. Did you know that? And she's like, you can have some if you want. She's like, I'm good, thanks though. And she's like, one day you'll have to accept you're not entirely bad. And Hayden thinks to herself, I hope that she's right. But like, then she just says out loud instead, I hope that I'm dead by then, because heaven would laugh at the impossible and hell would shriek with disgust. She's like, why must you be so complacent? She's like, why do you have to be so invasive? And she's like, that's rich coming from you. And she's just like, your sweet tongue will get you nowhere, and neither will your sharp teeth. And she tells her to go to bed. She's like, you want invasive? Fine. And she sits like with Shep between her and Hayden. She's like, enjoy your silence. Like, I hope you enjoy your silence. And she's like, it's bliss compared to your self-pity. You can't talk about invasiveness when you've invaded every part of my life, including this stupid thing in my chest. And she's just like, your heart's too big for you, just like I said. She's like, I'd rather feel something than nothing at all. And she's like, one day you'll know how wrong you are. And then there's a page break. Hayden comes back completely covered in paint. And then we get this scene where like Hayden is asking her to come like help her paint. But Allure's really bad at it. And she's like, oh my God, she paints like a fucking 4-year-old. And then they have this big like paint fight, right? It's a big paint fight after Allure's like, I need to shower, and there's a little bit of banter like, didn't you actually start it when you insulted me? And she's like, all right, whatever. And then Hayden asks how her bite mark is and she's referencing the spanking thing again, and Allure's like, your ego is so unattractive. And I'm like, no, I think the kidnapping is the unattractive part. I think the rest is actually okay. Surprisingly, I do. It's the murder and the kidnapping that's not great. And she goes into the shower, and I mean, Hayden's gonna follow her in there. We're gonna stop for now at chapter 28. That's about halfway, not quite, but we won't have to do as big of an introduction next time. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It's a long one. I know there's going to be a part 2. I'm sorry. It's not going to come next week. It's going to come the week after, because I'm doing a different book for next week. You guys are going to be excited. It's also circus. Is there a clown? I don't know yet. I haven't finished the book yet, but I will let you guys know. So if you're still here, please leave a little knife emoji or a little clown emoji. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. You can hear more about sapphic books on my TikTok, my Instagram, wherever, my shorts. I do a lot of recommendations, guys. I promise. It's not just bitching. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!